is an example. Next slide. Here, next slide. So you see the winding river. So we want to straighten them out. Next, please. Dams and dikes, actually the tributaries to the river, the other tributaries to the river require that we capture some of the water so that it will slow down its path towards the main Cagayan River, Mr. Chair. And this illustration in the right are actually locations identified in the JICA master plan. We'll look at some of the details. Next slide. Next slide, please. Here, some of the proposed dams identified by an infrastructure group. Here, the details. Next. Next, please. Okay, in Isabela, these are some of the locations of the projects. Next. Diversion dams and small water impounding projects to be done by DA. Next. Yes, the details of the locations. Next, please. Next, please. Okay, next, that's in Isabela. The previous one was for Cagayan. And the dikes to be constructed in Tuguegarao, especially the flood, the populated sections, no, of the along the riverbanks. Next slide. These are some of the sections are actually done already, Mr. Chair. And lastly, for the structural measures, as mentioned earlier, the small water impounding projects, DA is doing this and they will do some more. Next, please. Yeah, there's a small water impounding projects for the Cagayan province. Next. Locations. Next slide, please. Yeah, for Isabela, these are the sweeps. Next, please. Next, please. In Nueva Vizcaya, these are the proposed sweeps. Next, please. Next, please. Oh, those are for the structural measures, Mr. Chair. Let me now move to the vegetative measures that will be done. So let me start with the next slide. We want to establish buffer zones, meaning we will plant trees and vegetation shields along this line. I'd like to mention, Mr. Chair, that the local government units, the private sector, and even the communities are now very inclined to even restore the vegetative cover in the riverbanks, and starting with the planting of bamboos on certain sections of the river. We cannot put up all concrete measures there, so 3 lanes will be established for this, starting with immediately with bamboos and later on endemic tree species around these areas, Mr. Chair. Let's look at some of the locations that we are proposing. Next, please. Yeah, okay. This is an example somewhere. Also in, I think somewhere in Gataran or Alcala, somewhere. Okay, next, please. Second is the National Greening Program will continue to focus work on the watersheds, Mr. Chair, re-establishing lost forest cover trees in those areas. There are a number of GP locations that we will show here in the next slides. Next, please. Here. Okay, next, please. Next. Okay. Next slide.
Yeah, good morning.
Okay, for the bamboos that we are going to establish, the many of the local government units are spearheading this work, and especially I would like to mention the city of Tuguegarao, where the mayor is here with us today, and the others are also following. Next slide.
Okay na ako. Good morning.
Next, please. We want to promote
Okay na
agroforestry,
ako.
so meaning trees along with fruit trees, so that also the guys in the uplands can also make money. Next, please. These are some of the sample programs. DA will also introduce sloping land agriculture technology, SALT. So meaning they mix crops with planting of other plants along contour lines. That's all to prevent soil erosion, slow down erosion. Next, please. Yeah. Okay. So these are examples of locations that we want to do agroforestry and sloping land agriculture technology. Next, please. Yeah. Another area. Next, please. Okay, so those are the vegetative measures. And lastly, we are proposing other things to do, Mr. Chair, to address the flooding. And we will start with the next slide. We want to come up with a project that will upgrade our early warning system for floods. This is proposed by GASA and the DOST, and we will support this. Next, please. Yeah, these are the locations of the installations, for the gauges, etc. Equipment. Next, please. Second is that to address na response aspect of the flooding, we want to assist the local government units to acquire rescue vehicles and also communication equipment. Next, please. More importantly, we see, Mr. Chair, we will start dredging operations at the downstream portion of the river next week, but this is spearheaded, and we are very thankful for the efforts of the DPWH for this. But I think the effort should not only be somewhere downstream in Cagayan, but also midstream and also a little bit of upstream, because the river is heavily silted, it's very shallow, and I think we believe that the provincial governments and even other LGUs who can afford should also do dredging operations year in and year out, Mr. Chair, especially after floods. Next, please. And how to do this, we are still studying how the LGUs can procure on their own. And we want to further strengthen the riverbank monitoring to involve a lot of groups and institutions to do this, including state universities, Mr. Chair. And I think this is the last. Please, next slide, please. Yeah, we want to involve the SUCs, and the vocational schools in looking at how to address the flooding, but through R&D, Mr. Chair. And the SUCs are very, very positive in their participation in this kind of work. I think this is the last. Next slide. Next. Yeah, there are sections in the riverbank now where there are settlements, Mr. Chair. There are houses, there are even business establishments, and to reacquire these riverbanks, they need to be relocated, and that's part of the effort now of the DPWH to safer grounds. Next. Yeah, these are the easements that we need to be reacquired, and settlers should be resettled. Next, please. Okay, so lastly, Mr. Chair, we have the numbers. This still again for further refinement and study, and also we want to also identify the fund sources, not only from the national government. Probably we need uh, to find funding from official development assistance, either loans or grants for this. Let me just show you the initial figures in these last slides. I think these are the last two slides. The next slide, please. Here are the numbers, quite frightening to look at. For the these are for the structural measures, Mrs. Chair, between now and 2025 or 24. Next slide. These are the numbers for the vegetative and the non-structural measures, Mr. Chair. This is the last slide, Mr. Chair. I would like to thank the committee for their attention and listening to this presentation of our flood mitigation program.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Mr.
Honorable
Chair?
Franz Castro.
Yeah,
recognized.
thank you, Mr. Chair. Some inquiries lang po, no? So nakita ko po doon sa mga project, parang bongga naman din yung project, ano, nakikita natin, daming dams, daming mga, yung mga river papalawakin, widening of the river. Nakita ko dito, Mr. Chair, no, ang concern lang natin dito, doon sa mga projects ay yung tao. Kasi nakita natin, isang slide lang yata yung resettlement program, and wala pa akong nakikita dito na budgetary allocation. So, Mr. Chair, nag-conduct ba sila ng ilan ba yung maaapektuhan dito sa mga projects na binabalak po ng NEDA? Tapos, in terms, syempre, dun sa kabuhayan ng mga tao. So, mayroon na po bang naganap na mga consultations? At ilan po ang maapektuhan? Saan-saang lugar? Ano po yung plano? Kasi parang wala naman dito sa budget nila. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Franz Castro. Director Ledres, can you please give us your comments with the query of the Honorable Franz Castro?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Thank you for that question. I think we did not highlight this in the presentation, but the DPWH is already looking at the numbers, no, of the number of affected households or homes from the reacquiring of the easements. They have already worked together with TESDA and DOLE for those who will be affected, and also NHA. I would like to ask Director Bambalan if you can add to the details of the answer to the question of the Honorable Congresswoman. She's here, si RD from
Yes, Red Bambalan. Would you like to...
si RD, sorry, si DPWH RD. I'm sorry, si DPWH RD pala, Mr. Chair. Si RD Malaluan.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yes, Director and Mr. Chair. With regards to the resettlement, actually, it is the DNR who will acquire the easement, and they are the one who are already conducting the survey and the identification of those affected owners or affected families within the easement. Ang DANR po ang responsible for the reacquiring of the easement po natin. And with regards po dun sa ating short term, the dredging or removal of sandbars, yun naman po ay wala tayong affected families doon. Kaya we can proceed with the dredging, kasi ito po mga sandbars na ito na ano na lang po ito sa pagtagal po naipon na lang po sa along the river channel po.
Yes, Honorable Franz Castro, may gusto po kayong dagdag
Mr. Chair,
pa po dyan?
parang hindi pa na no? Parang, yes, Mr. Chair, thank you po. Pero parang hindi pa nasasagot yung aking tanong doon sa ilan po ba yung affected dito sa ano, kasi sinasalba natin yung kabuhayan ng ating mga mamamayan dahil sa resolution na ito, tinignan natin yung mga dahilan. So isang dahilan dyan ano, yung irresponsible na or hindi planado na pagbubukas ng Magat Dam na nakaapekto sa buhay ng ating mga mamamayan. So kung may plano palang mga dislocation ng ating mga mamamayan due to this mga projects na gagawin, so dapat Mr. Chair, ang una muna nating kino-consider ay yung mga tao. So ilan yung apektado, yung agrikultura, ang hirap po yatang mailipat ang mga tao doon sa kanilang lugar, tapos ibang environment, tapos doon yung kabuhayan nila. So, yun dapat yung inuuna natin, Mr. Chair, doon sa pagpaplano natin. So, wala akong nakitang ganun eh. So, ano ba, Mr. Chair, meron ba tayo makukuhang sagot or sa next meeting na lang magbibigay sila ng report? Kasi parang napakalaki nitong mga projects na ito. At wala naman ditong budget para sa resettlement. Saan lugar?
Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, of course, I would like to recognize the Honorable Chair Joseph Jojo Lara. I think he has something to say and to contribute to the questions of the Honorable Franz Castro.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you very
Chair.
much, Mr. Chair. Before I proceed, Mr. Chair, recognize ko lang yung members ng North Luzon na attending. Of course, Honorable Juni Kua, Honorable Max Dalog, Honorable Alisa Sinatan, and Honorable Jose Christopher Belmonte. Thank you for, and Honorable Alfel Bascud. Thank you for joining us this morning. Maraming salamat. And Representative Honorable Ron Salo. Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, with regards dun sa query ni Honorable Castro, kung France, actually, nung time na nangyari lahat ito and before that na nangyari, nabigyan ako ng pagkakataon na makausap ang NHA, Director Sales, and of course, Secretary ng Housing. They have been very supportive sa pagdating sa relocation and resettlement areas na mga lalong-lalo na itong nangyari na apektado nung Ulysses kasi nung nagpunta si Presidente doon sa Tugigaraw, nakausap ko po sila. With due respect sa mga local government units, mga mayors na nakausap ko din, they have all the data ng mga affected families. Yung iba lang, ang talagang challenge lang sa kanila, tama yung sabi mo, yung madi-displace sila at yung pangkabuhayan nila ay nandun sa mismong area. Kasi karamihan sa madi-displace dito is yung mga farmer families. And alam naman natin na sa matter of practice and tradition po ng Filipino farmer families, nandun tayo mismo sa kung saan tayo nagtitil ng ating mga lupain. So mabigyan man ng local government ng area for resettlement, unfortunately, ang bigger challenge dito is kung paano natin makonvince sila na dilipat nga dun sa area. So I hope ano ko lang dito kay Director Ledres, you come up with a masinsin na coordination sa mga local chief executives natin. You come up with a solution or win-win solution na ma-convince natin itong mga ating mga kababayan doon sa affected areas na ma-resettle at the same time makapagbigay din tayo ng livelihood sa kanila na immediate na marerespondihan natin yung source of income ng bawat isa. So, yun lang, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Chair Jojo Lara. But we would like to afford the resource persons with us also today the chance to answer. Siyempre ito, buhay nga po ito, na nabanggit ni Honorable Franz Castro. Pwede po bang madinig yung opinion ni Mayor Jefferson Seriano of Tugigaraw? Mayor Jeff?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good morning, Mayor. Thank you. Baka po matulungan niyo po kami.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting us.
This is situationer with the query of the Honorable Franz Castro. yung maraming
Yes.
displays. Baka po you can enlighten us. Please proceed, Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Your Honors. Thank you for inviting us. Good morning to the other resource persons. Good morning to the Secretariat. We made an analysis on the present situation in our city after the massive flooding caused by the northeast monsoon winds. And what we did is when we had a meeting with RDC, when we joined the meeting because we're members of the RDC, when they were making the proposals as regards the projects for the opening and widening of the Cagayan River, for Tugigaraw, we will have some families that will be affected. So that based on our present plan now in Tugigaraw, because we have our own rehabilitation plan, is we have to relocate the others. We are communicating with the National Housing Authority, but we are setting aside parts of our budget for the relocation of those who will be affected and those who are perennially affected by the flooding, because we have some areas in Tugigaraw who are perennially and every now and then being affected by this flooding. So these are the core shelters which were done before, but as time passed by, they are the victims of flooding every now and then. So these are the families that we are targeting for relocation.
So, Honorable Mayor Jeff, we are assured by the local government of Tugigaraw na katulong po kayo dun sa pag-relocate, ano? Diba?
Yes, we are doing. Yes, what it has been our working attitude in the city that it should be first the resources of the city and then we go to national. We know how the national funds work. It is not that fast. It takes a long time. So that's why we use first our resources as much as we can, and then while waiting for the resources of the national government.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mayor Jeff. Honorable Franz?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I would like to to inform din yung ating mayor na ako po ay ang aking pong route ay sa Tugigaraw, Bagay Tugigaraw. Kaya medyo passionate po ako dito sa sa may Bagay po ang aking lola, ang aking pong route doon at saka sa Piat. Kaya po talagang very passionate po ako sa nangyaring flooding sa Cagayan. At sabi nila, first time ito na nangyari. Thanks God, hindi naman gaano naapektuhan yung aking pong pamilya doon. Kaya lang po talaga pong mayor, kailangan po natin yung continuous na communication and consultation po doon sa ating mga kababayan na maapektuhan po ng nung mga proyekto. So maganda naman po ito para mabigyan ng So marami pa akong question, Mr. Chair, sa next na lang po ako, susunod na lang po ako. Thank you po, Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Franz Castro.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Honorable Kafemia Pulyamat.
Mr. Chair, pwede bang may deliver ko yung aking manifestation kasi ililipat ako sa ibang meeting po. Pwede bang ma-recognize?
Yes, opo. Salamat po. Please proceed, Honorable Kafemia Pulyamat.
Okay, maraming salamat, Mr. Chair. At magandang umaga sa lahat ng ating mga resource person na nandito sa ating committee meeting, no? Mr. Chair, bukod po sa short term, ng mga hakbang, dapat bigyang diin natin ang kagyat na pagpapahinto sa malawakang mining at logging activities sa ating mga kabundukan, lalo na ang mga natitirang kagubatan natin. Isa ang Pilipinas sa top 10 na mga bansang may pinakamataas na rate sa deforestation at malaking bahagi dito ay mula sa legal logging. dapat din bigyang diin ang pagprotekta sa natitirang kagubatan natin mula sa mga proyektong nangangahulugan ng pagkasira sa mga lugar na dapat ay natural na barriers natin laban sa mga bagyo. Isa na dito ang Kaliwa Dam sa Sierra Madre. Ang Chinese-funded dam na ito ay nangangahulugan ng pagpapalayas sa mga katutubo at paglubog ng libong ektaryang mga lupaing ninono at kagubatan na sana'y tutulong sa atin sa pagsalag ng matinding pagbaha at landslide. Mr. Chair, nakikiisa ang kinatawang ito sa panawagan ng mga katutubo na huwag ipagpatuloy ang Kaliwa Dam at itigil ang malawakan at nakakasirang logging at mining sa mga kagubatan. Ito din ay proteksyon natin mula sa mga matinding pagbaha tulad ng mga nangyari sa Cagayan. Bagamat ina-appreciate natin yung mga bagong plano, pero mahalagang bagay pa rin na kailangan nating protektahan ang ating natural na mga kagubatan na bahagi ng ating inang kalikasan na pinoprotektahan mula pa sa ating mga ninono. Yun lamang po, Mr. Chair. Maraming salamat at magandang umaga.
Maraming salamat po, Honorable Ka-Femia Pulyamat.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, proceed.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please proceed.
Gusto ko lang pong dagdagan yung mga sinabi mo kanina ni Congressman Lara, si Congressman Castro, and also si Mayor Soriano regarding sa yung mga problema natin sa resettlement, relocation, no? Alam po naman natin lahat na kung for especially the local government unit, yung mga areas that are being constantly flooded, no? So sana it's not only in Tuguegarao or in Cagayan, but in our entire country we should be more prudent in giving building permits. Na kung alam natin na flooded area na yan, huwag na nating payagan na makapagbahay yung mga para hindi tayo rin magkakaproblema later on. It will still be the local government unit na ng mga problema ng about relocation. Yun lang po, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much, Administrator Visaya. Before we proceed to the next resource speaker, would like to acknowledge the presence of our fellow members in North Luzon, Honorable Ino D, Representative Michael Urecheta. Thank you for your presence this morning. Next in our list of speakers is a DNR, to update the Committee on the Management of the River Basins in the country on the newly created Environmental Laws Enforcement Task Force. Pwedeng pa-update po kami kung anong mga ito. Of course, I would like to recognize Yusek Ed Leonardo. Yusek Leonardo, if you are present, please, you are recognized. Leonardo. Yeah. Sino po nasa central office po ng DNR present?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Can I recognize if ARD Marcos Dacanay is present? ARD Marcos Dacanay. Director Gwendolyn Bambalan of Region 2.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, ako na
yes,
next.
DSDB.
Yes. Yes, DSDB. You are recognized.
Pangatlo yata ako sa interpolator. So anyway, Mr. Chair, in this discussion, hindi ko narinig yung yung River Basin Control Office. And I think sila ho yung dapat managot nito because River Basin Control, as even Kong Sol mentioned, hindi lang naman Cagayan yan eh. Hindi natin masosolve ang problema kung Cagayan lang. It should be the whole River Basin of Cagayan.
Wala yung resource person natin, no?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Executive Danyo. DSDB,
yes.
Nandyan ba si Nandyan ba si Director Antonio Danyo? Director Danyo? From the River Basin?
Speaking, Mr. Chair. Speaking.
You are recognized,
River Basin
Director
Office.
Danyo.
Yep. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Honorable Congressman, and to all that are here for this inquiry. Based on the invitations given to me and signed by the chair, it states that the committee strongly recommended your presence in the next hearing to answer some queries regarding the management of the river basin in the country. So I hope I would be able to provide some insights on relative into the functions of the River Basin Control Office. So actually the office was created through Executive Order 510 in March of 2006 that mandates the River Basin Control Office under the Department of Environment and Natural Resources to rationalize various river basin projects and as well as to promote and advocate an integrated river basin management and ensure the protection of environment and people. As well as Executive Order 816 in July of 2019 that 2009, that declare the River Basin Control Office under the Department of Environment and Natural Resources as the lead agency in integrated planning, management, and rehabilitations of the country's river basins. So relative to that, the office has given about 5 functions, and the very first function is to rationalize and integrate plans, projects, programs within the country's river basins. And secondly, in terms of to harmonize policies and create and enabling environment for the management of the river basins, as well as to serve as the DNR's office in terms of the monitoring, evaluations of the DNR programs, projects within the country's river basins. And lastly, as having a river basin database management. So relative into that function, what the office have done is actually earlier discussed by the Regional Director of Region 2 of NEDA, and actually the in relations to promoting a basin-wide approach in the planning and management of the river basins, actually we spearheaded the formulations of an integrated river basin management and development plan. So the first plan for Cagayan River Basin was approved in 2012, but it was updated into a climate change responsive integrated river basin master plan, of which NEDA director present in his presentations show us the cover or part of the page of that integrated river basin development master plan. And that master plan was approved or endorsed by the Regional Development Council of Region 2 through Resolution 0217-2017, and the Regional Development Council of Cordillera Administrative Region, which also covers a big part of Cagayan River Basin, through the resolutions number 22, series of 2017. So the Integrated River Basin Master Plan served as a guide in terms of having a basin-wide approach in the implementations of the different river basin programs. So it has 4 major frameworks that River Basin Master Plan. One is the watershed management framework, wherein it is headed by the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. So actually, most of the programs contained in that under the watershed management program was raised by our earlier resource person, and relative into what should be the program for these watersheds. We have also the water resources management program, and I think this headed by both by the NIA, and some water resources agency, and thirdly the flood control and disaster risk, which actually under the leaderships of the DPWH and the OCD, and fourthly related into the wetland and the coastal management, which again under the DNR. So the very first mandate of the office is to develop, formulate this basin-wide program on the development and on the rehabilitations of the river basin. So it provides that template, no? But the implementations will be for the different mandated agencies. Secondly, I mentioned about the enabling environment, that so that those programs will be implemented in the area. So one of the very steps that we have done is to ensure that there would be stakeholders' participations in the implementation of this program. So that's why our office, through the DNR regional office in Region 2, spearheaded the creation, establishment of the Cagayan River Basin Management Council, which is now headed by DNR Regional Director of Region 2, with co-chair, which rotates from the different governors of Cagayan River Basin. But there, that council, the legal mandate is only through memorandum of cooperations. So the council functions more of a coordinative, more of a facilitative, that the programs as contained in the master plan will be implemented by these different agencies. So I think that's also one of the reason I think, Mr. Chair, you sponsored the creation of an authority which would have a power, which this council, which function only through cooperation, do not have that authority. So the council has very, I would say, very limited, or even almost no power, because this is really more of coordinative. So another activity, of course, being done by the office is in terms of capacity building of these different stakeholders, that they would understand that the development of the river basin should not be by sector, but it should be integrative. That it should be really a holistic when we manage our river basin. That's part of the capacity building. We work on the advocacy, but all these activity are mostly done by our people in the DNR, because the office, which is in the central office, the small office, it functions as the one that formulates the program, but the implementations is through the different regional offices of the DNR. And other functions being done by the office is on terms of the monitoring and the evaluations of the different plans, programs being implemented in the river basins, particularly those being done by DNR. So
Yeah, thank you.
I think
Direct,
that's how the
yeah,
office function, Mr. Chair.
yeah. Thank you, Director Danyo. No, itatanong ko lang, no, bago ako i-recognize si DSDV, no, etong nabanggit mo na mga plans, no, and programs na under sa ano nyo, sa office mo, no, RBCO, coordinated ba ng gusto yan sa NEDA, RDC ng Region 2? Considering na sabi mo kanina na nire-recognize mo yung nagawa ng RDC NEDA, no, unang tanong, coordinated ba ito? And number two, as far as your office concerned, sabi mo wala kayong power, pero but then again, sana yung programs nyo napakaganda, pero namomonitor nyo ba yung extent ng ano nito, ng implementation niya with the different departments? Of course, kasama na dyan, hindi lang ang DNR, kundi pati mga DPWH. Director Danyo.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Actually, we evaluation, we do a report relative into the percent implementations of the different programs and projects as contained in the master plans. And maybe at this time, Mr. Chair, we are willing to provide you a copy of how far have the Cagayan River Basin Master Plan been implemented, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Director Danyo, no, please furnish the committee with regards to the implemented programs as per your master plan. No, so thank you very much, Director Danyo. DV Sevillano, you're recognized, DS. DS, nakamute po kayo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kaya una kong tinanong, nasaan yung RBCO report? Because, you know, ang RBCO natin, they're handling so many river basins in the country. Then, kung titingnan mo yung pondo at saka opisina nila, nandun lang sila sa isang sulok. And if we're talking about Cagayan River, we're talking of river basin. We're talking of 2,453 barangays. We're talking of 106 municipalities. And we're also talking of 14 big rivers. So kung titingnan mo yung pondo pa lang nila at yung opisina nila na nasa sulok lang, hindi nila kakayanin, Mr. Chair. That's why I have a resolution nung nangyari to, and I even have a privilege speech, na bigyan nila pansin ng RBCO. Because yung mandate nila napakaganda. So if we're talking only of Cagayan, hindi yan ho ang solusyon. The river basin of Cagayan, nandyan ho ang Apayao, Kalinga, Ifugao, Benguet, Abra, Quirino, Nueva Vizcaya, Isabela, Cagayan, Nueva Ecija, Aurora, Mountain Province. Ganun ho kalaki yan. And that's only Cagayan River Basin. Madami yung nagpapabida dyan. Maraming gustong kumita. Maraming gustong magka-project. Pero honest to goodness, ano ba talagang gusto natin gawin? The flooding, matagal na ho yan. That's what? 2-3 months ago. Ano na ho nangyari? Anong role ng DNR which under nilang RBCO? They were saying magtanim tayo ng kawayan, which is the cheapest way. Yan hong ina-advocacy ko. I was in my privilege speech, I mentioned the planting of kawayan. Pero may nagtanim na ba? May programa na ba ng gobyerno nagtanim ng kawayan? Or they're still planning? So yung sinabi kanina ni Mayor of Tuguegarao, talagang magulo yung ano yan. So, maganda, may mga council na tayong ginawa, pero since this is only a coordinating body, parang mahirap gawin. Look at what happened to look what happened to Marawi. Ilang taon na yun, wala pa nangyayari. Di ba? So what will happen to it's not only Cagayan but all the river basins, even Marikina nagka-problema naman sila. Umulan lang ng konti, nagka-problema na sila. So ano ba talaga? It should be an honest to goodness discussion. Paano natin tutulungan at gawin na natin? Because kung yung ang dami natin pag-uusapan, ang daming plano, wala ho talaga mangyari. It will take time. Nandyan, in 3 months time or 4 months time, tag-ulan na naman po. Tingnan nyo kung ano mangyayari. So yun lang, Mr. Chair. Kasi ang ganda ng sinasabi ng programa, may forest watershed rehab. May nangyari na ba? Ang daming pera ng gobyerno eh. Bilyon-bilyon. NGP, bilyon-bilyon. Ano na nangyari? Production of quality seedlings, may nagumpisa na ba? Then yung soil conservation, meron na ba? So ito Mr. Chair, it's an eye-opener to everyone because ang kalaban natin dito every year nangyayari. Nandiyan ang ulan, sigurado may flooding. Di ba? Yun naman, every year natin sitwasyon to. Where is RBCO? Where is DNR? Where is the other agencies? Dapat pagtulungan natin to para may mangyari naman sa atin. Yun lang Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Maraming salamat. Maraming salamat, DB Sabellano. Sure. Any comment from
if I may,
Director Danyo?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to express my thanks to the Honorable Congressman for recognizing that indeed the office has a very big mandate, but I would say very, very challenging mandate. And for us to be able really to achieve that, we need some support, which the Honorable Congressman expressed on that. And then, the office really would be very happy if, with the help of the Congressman, we would be able to have really an office that, not unlike the present situations wherein we only functions through job orders. No, we do not have regular personnel, so that's how it functions. But we are working nationwide. We have the programs of the 18 river basins plus the other river basins, and it's really quite difficult to do the coordinative works on this if we will only rely on job orders and the like. But if this honorable congressman would be able to help us and have this office be strengthened, then we would be thankful and would be really very happy. But and also we will accept the challenge if given the opportunity, Mr. Honorable Congressman.
Mr. Chair, in addition to that, kaya talagang naano ko, the very passionate, yung pondo nila for 2021, pakitanong kung magkano. And I was hoping na itong 2021 madagdagan na sila because ang laki po ng problema ng RBCO natin. Director, ilan na pondo nyo ngayon? Director?
8 million 1 year.
Ilan?
8 million 1 year. So and that involves the salary, 8 million for 1 million, and that includes the salary for our job orders.
Mr. Chair, hindi ba nakakatawa to? I was in the last ko, kaya nga ako nung yung nangyari to, I made the privilege speech. Kasi chinek ko yung RBCO talagang nasa isang sulok lang yan at walang pondo. But yung mandate nila napakalaki. Pero ito Mr. Chair, ito na yung problema natin sa future na dapat tingnan natin, bigyan natin ng malaking pondo, pero huwag naman puros dredging. Kasi dredging, malaking kita kayo dyan. Magtanim tayo ng kawayan para long term at mas mura. Yun lang, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much,
Mr. Chair.
Mr.
Chair, if I may recognize.
Dakanay, yes, you are recognized, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. We are very sorry because our Regional Executive Director right now hosting the BBB Task Force meeting. So, with regards to the topic regarding what we did, regarding the mitigation of flooding in Cagayan River, our office knows that we identified already and delineated the legal easement of the Cagayan River in its tributaries for the purpose of planting of bamboos. So nagkaroon po kami ng memorandum of agreement to those sa academe like CSU for the propagation of bamboos, and we had already established our nurseries for the propagation of bamboos and other trees. So we started already the planting of bamboos along Cagayan River riverbank to those legal easement 20 meters wide. So we already finished identifying the legal easement for 65 kilometers from Apari and those potential areas for planting of bamboos. So i-continuous po yan sa lahat ng tributaries ng Cagayan River. And for the purpose of mitigation of soil erosion, so kami po ay magtatanim ng bamboos para ma-mitigate yung soil erosion along Cagayan River and its tributaries na rivers. So with regards to the greening program, we continuously planting and monitoring those.
Pwede bang ano lang? Magandang report
yes,
niya, no? Magtatanong lang ko yung ano ni Director.
Yes, sir.
If you allow me.
Yes,
Mr. Chair, you mentioned, the Director mentioned about planting of bamboos and an establishment of nurseries. Kailan niyo po ginawa yan? Kailan niyo po ginawa yan?
Sir, may ko na may mga nurseries na kami. So dati may mga nurseries na kami sa regional offices.
Alam ko may mga nurseries kayo na walang laman naman eh. Pero Mr. Chair, tinatanong ko kailan sila nagtanim ng kawayan? Kailan nag-put up ng nurseries?
Yung nurseries po namin, yung propagation ng bamboos, may mga may mga tawag nito yung
kailan? Director, hindi ko walang explanation kailan.
Last December, sir, meron na kaming na-establish na planting materials.
Okay,
tapos nagkaroon kami ng MOA, ng CSU.
Mr. Chair, if you plant bamboo last December, hindi mo pa pwedeng itatanim yan because you have to wait for 5 months bago mo itanim yan para tumubo. So, Mr. Chair, ito yung mga gusto natin maayos sana na kasi parang pag may nangyari, may gagawin tayo, papogi lang. Yung honest to goodness na yung gawin natin kasi wala talagang mangyari sa atin ito. Malaking problema to, Mr. Chair. Yun lang. Thank you. Please continue, Director.
Ay, sir. May mga dati kaming mga na-propagate na tinanim na namin sa along riverbank at na-identify na rin natin mga areas na pwedeng taniman. Now, yung mga bagong propagules, after 4 months, pwede nang itanim po yun. Kaya waiting for 4 months yung mga propagules namin.
The Director, gusto lang i-correct kasi sinabi mo nagtanim na kayo pero pag you propagated bamboo in December, di mo pwedeng itanim pa yan. So yun lang, gusto ko lang i-correct yun para alam natin yung nangyayari. Di ba?
Sir, meron na kaming dati, sir.
Ilan yung dati nyo?
Ibang site kasi yung sir eh.
Kaya ilan yung dati nyo? In one nursery, ilan?
Ay, wala akong concern dito yung wala yung listahan ko, sir.
Ito, kahit meron pa kayong 10,000 ready planting materials, napakalit niyan sa production nyo if you have a nursery.
Ayos, sir.
Napakalit niyan. Parang parang for the sake of reporting lang yan na may nursery kayo, but in reality, wala. So, Mr. Chair, ito yung nangyayari kasi sa grounds eh. Ito yung nangyayari. Kaya dapat ito yung mga tingnan natin, Mr. Chair. Kasi ako, willing ako magpunta doon to check yung mga bamboo nurseries nila, Mr. Chair. Samahan ako niya, Congressman Lara.
Mr. Chair Jojo, may I just interject? Madagdagan ko lang po. Pwede ko bang matanong kay ARD? Magkano yung budget ba ninyo para dyan sa replanting natin for 2021?
Sir, wala pa so far wala akong data dito na nahawak ngayon dahil I attended the meeting kanina kaya ako lang nag-online. So kukunin ko yung focal person namin, sir. Tawagan ko lang kung magkano yung allotted ngayon.
Oo. And
Yes, sir.
dagdag ko lang na question. We're aware 500 kilometers ang problema natin of the Cagayan River. Yun ba yung master plan din ninyo na sinusunod? For
Yun po
replanting
yung
ng bamboo?
Yun po yung 520 kilometers po yung stretch ng Cagayan River. Iba pa yung yung tributaries niya na Cagayan River. So we are in the process of identifying yung potential area na pwedeng tamnan ng bamboo. At kasi lahat po ito, yung stretch na to, may surveyed na po yan ng the cadastral survey at a portion of that, may mga title na dyan. So yun po na-identify po namin na masagasaan ng legal easement.
So
yung
just
mga po,
ARD,
yes,
yung budgetary niyan, may computation na rin kayo, budgetary requirement na quantify niyo na ba kung mga magkano kaya ang kakailanganin dito?
So yung concept, identification, survey and identification of the areas, on process pa yung namin. So yung computation namin ng budgetary requirements, kasi just recently, ito lang muna tinapos namin yung stretch ng up to Tuguegarao, 65 kilometers para yung affected ng flooding last December. Yes, sir.
Thank you, ARD. Yung yung pondo ninyo for 2021 to magkano po yon?
Yes, sir. Tawagan ko lang yung planning officer namin.
Thank you, Honorable Chair Jojo.
Mr. Chair, may I, Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Jess Las Marias, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Mabit lang natin po. Sandali lang po ito kasi hindi na natin pag-uusapan ang kung paano nangyari yung pagbaha. Sa solusyon na po ako kaagad, Mr. Chair. Ito po ang ilang katotohanan. Ito po ang ilang katotohanan tungkol po sa pagbaha, Mr. Chair. Sangayon po sa UNESCO World Water Development Report of 2006, 98.5% ng tubig, liquid fresh water ng mundo ay wala sa ibabaw ng lupa, kundi nasa ilalim ng lupa. Sa makatwid, Mr. Chair, napakalaki po ang pagtataguan ng tubig sakaling umulan ng malakas at yan po ay nasa ilalim ng lupa. Ito pong humble na researcher na ito, ang amin pong sinasabi, ang solusyon po sa pagbaha hindi po dam. Matagal gawin, magastos at maraming napipinsala. Hindi rin po pwede ang reforestation sapagkat kapag nagtanim ka ng punong kahoy, maghihintay ka ng 30 taon bago niya magawa yung kanyang trabaho sa flood control. Kung naunahan tayo na gumagawa ng uling, ay sigurado hindi na lalaki yung puno. At kung lumaki man at dumaan po yung illegal logger, sigurado hindi rin po magagawa ng punong kahoy yung kanyang trabaho. Ito po ang solusyon, Mr. Chair, kung makikinig lamang po kayo. Sangayon po sa International Water Association, they recommend that flood control systems do not always have to be only to prevent floods, but can also be used to combat droughts. The ideal solution should take the following, Mr. Chair. Pakinggan po natin. Dapat po fast and easy to construct. Relief should not take long to deliver to our people the relief that they need from flooding and from drought. Isa pa po, dapat po affordable, hindi po mahal. Katulad ng dam, napakamahal po, napakatagal pang gawin. Simplicity of engineering, hindi po kinakailangan ng napaka-complicated na engineering para magawa yung solusyon. At dapat po, hindi po makakapinsala ito ng malaki sa ating environment. At higit sa lahat, matipid natin yung tubig para magamit po natin sa future, lalo-lalo na sa agrikultura. Ang tanong,
may submit na ito, Chair?
Mr. Chair, meron bang ganitong solusyon? Meron po. Ito po yung tinatawag na artificial aquifer recharging pagkatapos po ng rainwater harvesting. Meron din po, ito po yung tinatawag din na managed aquifer recharge. Ito po talaga yung solusyon, Mr. Chair. Ako po ay gustong-gustong tumulong sa bagay na ito sapagkat una sa lahat, ako po ay taga Cagayan Valley at ako po ay kasama sa ako at ang aking mga kamag-anak ay malimit na biktima ng flooding. Ano po? Paano po ginagawa ang artificial aquifer recharging? Kinakailangan pong malaman natin yung mga lugar na kung saan dati maraming punong kahoy na nagdadala ng tubig sa ilalim ng lupa na ngayon ay puro kalbo na yung kagubatan. Meron pong tinatawag na hydrogeological profiling. upang ating malaman kung gaano kalaki ang espasyo sa ilalim ng lupa na pwedeng pagtaguan po ng tubig, ulan. Ang tawag po dito ay storativity. Isang bagong salita na kung kailan ako tumanda, ngayon ko lang po narinig. Storativity, ito po ang nagsasabi kung gaano kalaki ang pwedeng pagtaguan ng tubig sa ilalim ng lupa na pinababayaan lang nating umagos at pumipinsala sa mga kabayanan katulad po ng flooding na dinala po ng Ulysses. Matagal ko na pong pinag-aralan ang mga bagay na ito at matagal ko na pong gustong sabihin. Subalit, hindi po kami nagkaroon ng malaking pagkakataon upang may parating po ito sa pamahalaan. Sana po, sa pagkakataong ito ay pakinggan po kami sapagkat ang talagang solusyon, pasensya na po si Congressman DB, no? Pero matagal po yung kawayan bago po niya magawa yung kanyang solusyon. Ang pinakamabilis pong solusyon sa flooding ay managed aquifer recharging. Mabilis gawin, mura, at kayang-kaya nating gawin. Maraming salamat po. Ako po ay nagpapaalam na sapagkat magpapakasal po ako ng anak bukas.
Mang Jess.
Thank you very much, Mang Jess. No? Congratulations sa napakagandang proposal mo. No, may paki-furnish kami dito sa committee, no, at sa susunod na mga pagkakataon na bigyan tayo ulit ng pagkakataon din na maupuan ng gusto yung proposal mo, no?
Taglit lamang po ko, bibigyan pa ako ng konting pagkakataon. Sa ngayon po nakakuha po ako ng funding na tutulong po upang gastusan ang paggagawa ng hydrogeological profiling. Wala pong gagastusin ang gobyerno dito. Iniaalok po namin ito pagkatapos po na nangyari na Ulysses flooding. Ano po, walang gagastusin ang gobyerno, kinakailangan lang po namin coordination kung paano namin ito maisagawa. At ang meron na kaming target site, kasama po ang Cagayan Valley, kasama po ang Marikina Watershed at sa Bicol. Ano po, titingnan po namin kung saan pwedeng itago ang tubig sa ilalim ng lupa para nang sa ganoon, kapag umulan ng malakas sa susunod na mga pagkakataon, itatago natin yung tubig ulan.
Ilalim boss.
Paggagamit ng agrikultura. Hindi po ito mahal, Mr. Chair, at wala kayong gagastusin ng mga congressman. Maraming salamat po.
Mr. Chair, in addition to that, addition lang.
Maraming salamat.
Manong Jess po,
Mr. Manong Jess.
Mr. Chair, addition lang. In addition to what...
Yes, DB, you're recognized.
Yeah, actually, si Mang Jess Las Marias, he helped me file the resolution about the aquifer last Congress. Kung saan na magising natin at tignan natin yon. Meron akong na-file. Kaya tinulungan ako ni Mang Jess regarding that. Yun lang, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Thank you very much, SDB. May I hear from DNR ang comment nila dito sa proposal ni Mang Jess Las Marias from DNR? Director ARD Dakanay? Director Dakanay?
Sir, hindi ko masyado pa nabasa ang proposal, sir, at I cannot comment on what really the outcome of the study. But what we did is that yung mitigation measures sa plantation.
Anyway, ang ano ko na lang, Man Jess, no? We will request DNR, no? Kasi sabi mo kung paano mo makikipag-ugnayan ka at paano mo gagawin ang identification ng mga areas, no? Para nakikita ko siguro pwedeng ang DNR Region 2 will assist you, no, when it comes to Cagayan River, no, sa identification ng mga areas na pwedeng paglagyan diyan sa sinasabi mo, no. So anyway, thank you very much, Mang Jess, and of course kay Director Dakanay.
Sir, thank you very much. Sana po mahiring na yung i-final ni Congressman DB tungkol po sa rainwater harvesting. Ano po, kailangan na po yan. Noon pa po namin i-final ng last Congress. Kung napakinggan na po sana noon, baka kahit na paano, naumpisan na po natin.
I-coordinate natin sa ibang committee na i-file yan, Mang Jess. No? Tingnan natin kung ano nang status niya. Again,
Salamat
thank
po.
you very much, Mang Jess. Maraming salamat. Next sa DNR, mayroon pa ba yung sa Mines and Geosciences Bureau? Attorney Wilfredo Moncano. Attorney Wilfredo Moncano, if you are present, sir. Director Moncano, you are recognized. Please proceed.
Yes, good morning. Good morning to the chair and members of this committee and all those resource persons who are present. I was actually there are two meetings simultaneous that I am attending now. I'm also attending the task force Build Back Better being conducted simultaneous with this one. This task force Build Back Better is the task force that is working on the rehabilitation and other flood mitigation measures in Cagayan, also in Marikina, and also in Bicol. Actually, there were questions earlier that on what were the activities being done for the flood mitigation measures in Cagayan. No? Actually, the dredging program, river restoration through dredging will be started next week, no? February 2 will be the launching of the dredging program, which will be done from the mouth of the river up to 63 meters. Actually, just about 63 meters, I think. No, the DPWH and the other members of this task force is preparing the design, the depth, and the width of the dredging. And on the part of the Mines and Geosciences Bureau, we are working also on the assessment of the content, mineral content, because there were, of course, there were studies before that the river in Cagayan, the material in the Cagayan contain also some magnetite sand. So we're also conducting our river assessment to know if the content of magnetite sand in Cagayan River is within the threshold. We have a threshold value. If it's more than 6% content of magnetite sand, we will be, the Mines and Geosciences Bureau will be imposing additional excise tax to whoever will be dredging. But so far, the result of that dredging shows that the magnetite sand content is less than 2%. So we will know from that assessment. It would appear the LGB will not be imposing additional excise tax for the dredging. But we're also part of the task force in as BNR, no? As BNR in the identification of and the planting of bamboos in easement. No? I think it's 20-meter easement in the river. This will be planted with bamboo, and this will be for the this will engage the services of local residents for them to work and receive compensation for their labor. But for the NGB, our participation is in the dredging as also in the mineral assessment of the Cagayan River. As far as the allegations that mining is one of the aggravating factor in the flooding, we have to inform the committee that the mining footprint in this area, Cagayan River basin, is less than, it's very small, no? An area of 4,000 hectares over almost 3 million hectares na basin area, so it's very small. So I would say that the footprint and the contribution of mining to the flooding is very, very minimal. And in fact, I would say that for large-scale mining, there's only one operating large-scale mine at the present because the other one is still waiting for the renewal of their contract with the government, the Financial Technical Assistance Agreement of Oceana Gold. So there's only one large-scale mining operating right now in Nueva Vizcaya. All the other provinces in Cagayan Valley, there are no other large-scale mining operations. So I would say that mining contribution to the flooding is very, very insignificant. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, the Director
Mr.
Montano.
Chair, Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
may I just seek
Yes,
clarification?
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Chair Jojo. Attorney Montano, good morning po.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning.
Thank you. May we request a copy of all those mining firms present within the upstream areas as well from your office? Meron po ba sa upstream?
We have copies of the approved mining tenements in Region 2, Cagayan Valley Region, Mr. Chair. We can provide you a copy of those permitted mining operation in the area.
So small scale is also present that you are aware of?
Yes, there are also small scale, but after the flooding, actually there was already a cease and desist order, and but it was not implemented, I think, no, by the regional office. But after the flooding, this is for the information of everyone, the small scale mining operators was inside the large scale mining tenement of FCF Minerals. And so after the flooding, FCF Minerals initiated for the stoppage of this small-scale mining operation in their area. And I think there were agreements to compensate the small-scale miners so that they will just leave their mining operations and leave the area. So it was initiated by the large-scale mining tenement holder.
Thank you, Attorney. But just the same, may we please again request also those your reports with regards to the small scale miners dun sa area.
And Mr. Chair?
Yes. Yes, the Honorable Luisa Loren Quaresma is recognized.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to everyone. Now, I was listening to the statement of the director of MGB. And I would just like to inform this body that in fact we have casualties in that particular area. That's why I'm preparing a resolution also for the immediate investigation of particularly the Committee on Environment together with the Special Committee on North Luzon Quadrangle with regards to what happened in that particular area where this big mining company, the FCF Mineral, is situated. So at this point, in as much as the director has said about what transpired in my particular district, may I also request, Mr. Chair, if the good director could provide a copy of a report on what transpired during that Typhoon Ulysses to furnish a copy of the committee, these two committees in particular, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Yes, Congresswoman Quaresma, we will furnish your office a copy of the report, investigation report.
Mr. Chair, Director, it should not only be my office, but it should be the committee. I'm requesting that it should be the committee. We have to follow the protocol. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we'll provide the committee secretariat the copy of the investigation report.
Mr. Chair, may I also ask Director Montano, yung updates on the newly created Environmental Laws Enforcement Task Force, as you mentioned earlier, have you had an initial meeting? And can you please brief us with regards to what has transpired in your meetings?
Actually, the task force actually is headed by another director, and actually one of the supposed to be a resource person here, Yusik Leonardo, is the one in charge of this one, and there's a director Nilo Tamuria. I don't know if he is invited, but the task force headed by Director Tamuria should be able to present the programs if this committee would like to ask about the programs of this environmental enforcement task force.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you. Executive Director Nilo Tamoria, kamusta na kayo, sir?
Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Director Nilo Tamoria po ang Executive Director ng Environmental Protection Enforcement Task Force. Ito pong tanggapan na binuo ni Secretary Simatu noong 2019 ay upang ma-consolidate po ang enforcement mandate at mapalakas ang enforcement mandate po ng DNR. Ito po rin ay interim pa lamang po ito dahil may panukala pong batas na nakahain dyan sa ating Kongreso para mabuo po ang mas regular na Enforcement Bureau. Kaugnay po ng problema na naging karanasan natin sa mga sunod-sunod na pagbagyo at pagbaha, ay nabanggit na ang isang dahilan ay ang mga paglabag sa environmental laws. Tumutok po ang Environmental Protection Enforcement Task Force doon sa pag-revive po ng pag-revive ng Anti-Illegal Logging Task Force pursuant to EO 23 na inilabas ng nakarang administrasyon. Bawat rehiyon naman po ay meron tayong Regional Anti-Illegal Logging Task Force at yan po ang tumututok dyan sa problema sa bawat rehiyon at nandito po ang EPTF para magbigay ng direksyon at magbigay ng further coordination sa iba't ibang ahensya na makakatulong po para mas maging epektibo ang pagsawata sa mga gawaing illegal na nagaganap sa iba't ibang lugar. Mayroon pong report na po ang aming tanggapan sa effort po particular sa Region 2 patungkol po dun sa mga effort ng iba't ibang ahensya na nakapaloob sa Anti-Illegal Logging Task Force pursuant to EO 23 at maaari po naming bigyan ang komite ng naturang report. Hindi lamang po sa Region 2, ganun din po sa Region 4A sa may in connection with the Upper Marikina flooding and also in Bicol River. May mga na-reconvene na po sa national level yung Anti-Illegal Logging Task Force sa pamumuno po ni Yusek Leonardo noong nakaraang December 15 at may mga programa na pong ginagawa. At willing po kaming i-provide ang ating komite ng mga programang ito.
Maraming salamat po, Executive Director Nilo. Reiterate ko lang po yung official report sana ng nung inyong bagong created na task force, yung output lang. Baka ho maka-request po kami ng copy ng doon sa inyong mga initiatives and output.
Opo, dagdag ko lamang po para maging sustainable sana po masuportahan din yung pending bill diyan, House Bill 6973. An act creating the Environmental Protection Enforcement Bureau para po mas hindi na po task force, bureau na po ang ating ang pinapanukala para maging sustainable. Yan lamang po, maraming salamat.
Thank you. Executive Director, kung ilalagay po natin sa porsyento, yung doon sa hilera na yung 500 kilometer stretch ng Cagayan River, tsaka yung upstream, may idea po ba yung ahensya kung mga ilang percent ang degradation ng area sa logging?
Ganito po. Una po ay meron po tayong updated na forest cover map. Ang pinaka-latest po natin ay yung meron po 2010 tapos meron tayong 2015 na ng NAMRIA. At kung pagbabatayan po natin yung mapa ay may pag-increase nga po ng forest cover. So siguro po dulot din po yan dun sa implementasyon ng total log ban pursuant to EO 23. Ang nagaganap pong mga paglabag ay mga paunti-unting pagdukot o yung poaching. Tinatawag nating poaching. Dahilan po yung mga pinagbabawal na nga po ngayon yung pagputol. Magmula po nung ilabas yung EO23 ay pinagbawal na po yung pagputol ng kahoy doon sa yung natural na yung mga natural grown na mga doon sa forest land. Kaya po yun po siguro rin ang isang factor kung bakit po medyo tumaas ang forest cover sa Sierra Madre Range. Ano po. Yan po ay kasalukuyan pong binavalidate pa natin sa ground para po mas makita natin kung talagang isang spot po ang meron talagang degradation.
Thank you, Executive Director. Yes, dagdag ko lang po, Executive Directors, pakisama naman po dun sa request po namin yon. Whatever reports you have currently, sige. Para ho may idea po kami dun sa lugar. The Honorable Lourdes Quaresma is recognized.
Yeah, I am Congressman Luisa Quaresma, Mr. Chairman. Yes.
My apologies, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Well, I would just like to know, saan po sila director or USEC, yung pong nagsalita, Chairman?
Sa DNR po siya.
ECC? Are they from the office of the DNR?
Yes, they are. Yes, okay. DNR po, ma'am.
They're the one in charge of the ECC, Mr. Chair. Am I right? Because as I have heard, he was talking about ECC.
Ay, hindi
Kasi may tanong lang ako, kung pwede, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sige po.
Saan po kayo sa DNR, yung nagbibigay po ng ECC?
Ay, hindi po. Kami po yung binuong tanggapan sa loob ng DNR, Mr. Chair, na may na binibigyan ng mandato doon sa enforcement po ng ating mga batas. So, Environmental Protection and Enforcement Task Force. Yung nagbibigay po ng ECC ay Environmental Management Bureau.
Okay. So, your office is not yet a bureau. Yung
not yet po.
Hindi pa. And you are requesting na kung po pwede, yung inyong opisina ay magiging bureau. Something like that. Okay. So, was there already a bill passed in Congress? Your office should become a bureau.
Meron na pong inihain si Deputy Speaker Lauren Legarda. Ito po ay proposed bill creating the Environmental Protection and Enforcement Bureau. So mahihiwalay na po yung enforcement doon sa mga regulatory function para po mas epektibo nating maprotektahan.
Yeah. I'm asking this, Mr. Chair, because I want to support the request of the gentleman na yung kanilang opisina ay maging bureau para at least we will be able to monitor really, fully monitor yung ating mga pagpuputol ng kahoy sa kabundukan, lalo na dyan sa Cordillera Mountains and Sierra Madre. Now, ang tanong ko lang, please, kahit hindi kayo, you're not from the office who's giving this ECC, kindly inform our good secretary because our good secretary of the DNR is not with us. May problema po kasi ako about an infrastructure project being constructed in my district, that is in the Lone District of Nueva Vizcaya, particularly in my municipality where I had been a mayor for 10 years, municipality of Pampang. There's this bypass road being constructed, halos gibain na ho nila yung bundok, wala pa ho yata silang ECC. That's why I questioned the DENR in my locality, bakit nila pinayagan na yung isang bundok in my particular area, ginigiba nila, which is very dangerous for the people of my municipality. Paki-check lang po yon. It's a project, a Bambang Bypass Road in my municipality. I think when they started with this project without getting an environment compliance certificate, which is a violation of our laws. Na I request that even the secretary should come personally and visit my area para ho makita nila yung damage na ginawa nila sa isang bundok doon po sa amin. Yan lang po, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, with the indulgence of the Honorable Deputy Speaker, pwede mong maka-react lang po ang ating mga taga DNR.
Okay.
Executive Director Nilo Tamoria, may we request for the compliance?
Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair. Opo, makakarating po at ipapaabot po natin sa kaukulang tanggapan at mismo kay Secretary ang pakiusap po ng ating butihing congressman. Isa rin po naman pwede na rin po naman namin yan i-validate dahil saklaw din po naman ang aming mandato na tignan po natin yung mga paglabag na nagaganap sa naturang proyekto. Maraming pong salamat.
Salamat po, Executive Director Tamoria. Yes, the Honorable Deputy Speaker D.B. Sabillano.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Nababagabag lang ako, Mr. Chair. Kasi naririnig ko yung dredging. So, alam, saan areas bang i-dredge nila? Then, gaano ba kalaki yung dredge nila? And yung madredge nila, saan ho nila ilalagay? Kasi nababagabag lang ako because if you do dredging, pag lumalim yung tubig at hindi ma-hold yung lupa, babalik ho yun. So, gusto ko, ito yung mga tanong po na gusto kong malaman. And saan nila ilalagay yung lupa, yung aggregates pala. Kasi mas malaki yung kikitain ng sa aggregates ay makukuha nila doon, saan nila ilalagay yon? And sino makikinabang?
Before mag-react ang MGB Director, gusto ko lang liwanagin muna kay Director Moncano. Kanina nabanggit mo nga yung sundan ko lang yung katanungan ni DS Sabillano. Mag-start na ang dredging sa February 2. Kung nandito pa si NEDA Director, yung naipakita ba kanina ni Director Ledres sa Flood Mitigation Rehabilitation Program, kasama ba yung area na i-dredge dun sa master plan na pinakita kanina, Director Moncano?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the one presented by NEDA kanina, kasama doon actually NEDA and the PWH ang nito, ang spearhead because they will be preparing the master dredging plan. The PWH ang head nung to prepare the master dredging plan. How deep will be the excavation, how wide, so kanila yon. But kasama, yes, nakita ko yung presentation ng NEDA kanina. Kasama doon yung area na there are portions na sandbank aalisin, yung mouth of the river palaliman. So kasama doon sa presentation ng NEDA, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director Moncano. Pag-reactan ko lang si Director Ledres. Ipa-confirm ko lang kasi kanina nakita ko doon sa presentation mo na wala yung yung sa Cagayan doon sa mouth ng Cagayan River. Na-miss ko ba yon nung sa presentation mo o nandito ba sa sinubmit mo yon? Director Ledres.
Yung sa Delta Kong, yung dredging doon, may separate pwede parang hindi pa na mention doon, but there is a MOA between the provincial government and other dredging. Alam ito ng DNR Kong.
Yes, pero yung na-submit mo kaninang presentation mo, wala yung dredging of the mouth of Cagayan River. No, tama ba?
Parang meron Kong, pero parang meron naman Kong nasa main document siguro. Hindi ko ma-recall lahat.
Tingnan namin kanina, wala kami nakita. Anyway, thank you very much, Director Ledres, Director Moncano. Recognize ko lang ulit si DS Sabillano. You may proceed, DS Sabillano.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, yan yung mga katanungan ko. Di ba nakuha kanina yung katanungan ko?
Director Moncano, may katanungan kanina si DS Sabillano, doon sa kung saan dadalhin.
Kasi nababagabag nga ako regarding yung dredging.
Pakiulit na lang, DS Sabillano, DSDB.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, again, nababagabag nga ako doon sa dredging plan nila because pag nag-dredge ka doon sa mga identified areas, paano mo maho-hold ngayon yung yung pag-erode ng yung lupa? Kasi babalik na babalik 'yan. Kung walang mag-hold doon. And saan nila lalagay yung i-dredge sila? Saan pupunta yung mga aggregates? Di ba? Sino makikinabang nun? So marami yung katanungan dyan. And believe nga ako at napakadali nilang na plano. Yun lang, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the question of the dredging, for the information of the good congressman, itong river restoration through dredging is a project, joint project, is a project of Task Force Build Back Better, wherein this will be at no cost to the government, no? At no cost to the government, but those that will be engaged in the dredging will be allowed to commercially dispose the material. So whether they will dispose this one in some of the maybe exported abroad, it's already allowed, no? Because they are allowed because this is at no cost to the government. Meaning, nung una na nagbabayad ng DPWH sa contractor para mag-dredge 300 pesos per cubic meter, wala na yan ngayon, at no cost to government ito. But in exchange, the materials will be, the contractor will be allowed to commercially dispose the material. Yung sa upstream portion naman, like yung sa Lalo, may mga lugar doon na where it will be realigned, the DPWH has a plan, they have identified the location where to stockpile this dredge material. No? So I think the DPWH is the better, is the agency that can better explain yung identification ng mga stockpile areas doon sa mga dredging areas na upstream ng mouth ng Cagayan River. Maybe we have invited DPWH, maybe the DPWH can better explain on that issue, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director Moncano. May we ask Director Malalwan to comment?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Actually, tama po si Director Moncano, considering na dalawa po yung ating scheme for dredging. One is that under the DNR Administrative Order number 2020-07, ito po yung rationalizing dredging activities in heavily silted river channel pursuant to the DNR DPWH DILG DOTR Joint Memorandum Circular number 1 series of 2019. Dito po sa DAO 2020-07, ang mga local government po ay pwedeng mag-apply para sa dredging at river restoration through dredging. At isa nga po doon, in-applyan ng ating Governor Mamba, yung pong Cagayan River, doon sa portion ng Cagayan, na maisama po ito sa dredging activities with commercial utilization. Ang mga we identified, meron din po dito sa DAO 2020-07 ng creation na interagency committee na headed by, to be chaired by the governor, the provincial governor, Governor Mamba. Then vice chair will be the head of DNR. Ang members po nito, ang DPWH, ang MGB, ang director ng MGB and director ng EMB. Kami po ang members nun. Then we identified na po ang phase 1 ng dredging natin from the mouth. It's about 8 kilometers from the mouth of the Apari of Cagayan River up to the 1 kilometer downstream of the proposed Kamalanyugan Bridge. It's about 8 kilometers po. Ang status po nito ngayon, meron na pong nag-apply kasi we advertise the invitation to apply for the dredging without cost sa government, pero yung kanilang makukuha with commercial utilization, may mga babayaran po sila dito, mga taxes, mga ano po, yung mga applicants. And dun po sa first, actually po ang buong dredging zone natin na na-identify ng Interagency Committee is up to Magapit. 30 kilometers from the mouth of Apari. Bali po ang ano nito at sa phase 1 hanggang dun po sa 1 kilometer downstream of Camalanyugan Bridge, meron pong 8 tayong segments na identify, while ang nag-apply po dito is around 17 private contractors or private applicants for the dredging. Dahil 8 lang po yung segments na in-identify natin dun, ika-siyam po yung navigational channel. Yung navigational channel po, it will pass through all segments. Ito po yung magiging common passage ng lahat ng mga dredging vessels. Bali, right now po yung phase 1, ang status nito ay meron na po nabigyan ng isang NTP. Tapos yung pong 2 segments po is, I think magbabayad na rin sila ng may corresponding bonds, about 20 million. Magbabayad na sila ng corresponding funds. After that, they can also be issued with the NTP kasi may MOA na sila with DNR and with corresponding dredging clearance na. The other one is pinaprocess yung ECC niya, and the other 3 we will be issuing the provisional clearance in order for them to apply for the ECC. Yun na po ang status nun. And I think may proposed launching sila on February 3 nung ating pong phase 1 of the river of the dredging through po ito nung DAW 2020-07. Yung isa po naman dredging scheme is ito po yung sinasabing we will start or we will have a ceremonial dredging and launching on February 2. Sa Tuesday na po yan sa Lalo, Cagayan. It's in Barangay Bangag, Lalo, Cagayan. It would be on February 2. Magkakaroon po ng ceremonial dredging dyan and planting of bamboos on February 2. It will start at 9 a.m. sa Bangag, Lalo. Ito naman po ay effort din po ito ng Build Back Better Task Force headed by Secretary Simatu and co-chaired by Secretary Mark Villar. And this will be done by administration po, using government dredgers and amphibious excavators and equipment. Dito rin po, the equipment po ng AFP will also be utilized. It would be launched on February 2. We identified, actually po, 19 sandbars po ang na-identify dito po sa Cagayan na dapat pong matanggal dahil nga po yun ang nakakapag-impede sa flow po ng tubig natin papuntang downstream. Kaya po nagba-backflow yung tubig natin sa itaas kasi po masikip dito. May tinatawag po tayong magapit narrow. Ito nga po, yung sandbar dito sa Bangag Lalo, isa po to sa part ng magapit narrows. We identified out of 19, nag-identify po tayo ng 3 na priority sites natin na uumpisahan po natin starting February 2 nga after the launching. Ito po yung nasa Bangag, Lalo at saka po 2 in Gataran sa Kasikalan and sa Dumon po. It would be simultaneous na uumpisahan po. Right now, by administration po ito mga to. Yung pong sa yung mga private dredgers po with commercial utilization niya, ilalabas po nila yan. Wala pong processing dito sa atin, ilalabas po nila yung lahat na makukuha nila at magbabayad po sila ng corresponding fees, taxes, and lahat po. Meron pang parang 5% supervision na ibabayaran sila. And dito naman po sa by administration, dun po sa 3 priority projects natin, we coordinated with the local government units po to identify the possible spoil sites po At sa bayan po ng Bangag ay nakapag-identify na po sila, may mga properties po ang local government na pwede pong tambakan. And nung nagkaroon po kami ng mga barangay consultation, nagtanong din nga po yung mga tao if pwede po silang makahingi. Ang sabi po namin, para hindi magulo yung coordination, lahat po sa mayor, si mayor na ang mag-identify kung saan dadalhin itong mga tambak na ito na manggagaling po dun sa ating mga sandbars. And still, we are still identifying other spoil sites po na paglalagyan nitong ating mga spoils. And ang isa din pong is kung madadaanan na talaga yung downstream going to Magapit Narrows, siguro po matutulungan din tayo nitong mga private dredgers para kung saan ma-dispose din po commercially kung itutuloy po natin upstream yung ating dredging through with commercial utilization. Pero right now po, we will undertake the dredging operation from Magapit Narrows upstream by administration po.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Honorable DV.
Maganda ho yung scheme na sinasabi nila. Can I get a copy also? Kasi meron din kaming mga rivers doon na kailangan na rin i-dredge. And I'm very sure buong Pilipinas interesado sa scheme ng na ginagawa diyan sa Cagayan. Can we have a MOA of all the MOA para mapag-aralan din namin, para pwede namin implement sa mga different river basin of the Philippines, kasi we have 18 eh. We have one in Ilocos, yung Abra River. Kung pwedeng bigyan sana yung committee para mapag-aralan natin yung scheme na sinasabi nilang lahat, MGB, DPWH, or all the other agencies. Yun lang, Mr. Chair.
Yes, salamat po, Deputy Speaker DV. Again, sa ating po mga resource persons, may we please remind you to submit your position papers and as well as the presentations earlier done. At the same time, as requested by the Honorable Deputy Speaker D.B. Sabellano, yung copies po ng mga MOA, particular to that scheme that will be implemented in Cagayan. At the same time, ulitin ko lang po, for NIA, the presentation, may we request a copy of your presentation. NEDA, through Director Ledres, please furnish the committee a copy of your presentation earlier. Thank you. Mr. Las Marias, Manjes, kung nandiyan pa po kayo, yung kopya po, so we can seek comment also. Sa ating pong RBCO, Director Danyo, submit the materials please submit the materials of the activities of RBCO, for DNR and MGB, again, may we request copies again, as mentioned earlier, the documents requested. For DPWH, Director Loretta.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Can you please submit to the committee list of applicants, and copies of the complete documents, submit. Direct Loretta.
Yes, sir. We will request the provincial government of kasi yung lahat kasi kami with regards to DPWH, it's only the dredging clearance. Pero yung activity ng buong interagency, hawak lahat ng documents ang provincial government kasi sila yung aming chairman and part ng technical working group.
Okay.
So request ko po sa kanila.
Yes. Pero as far as qualifications po ng mga applicants, this is done through the local government unit, or is it through public?
Through the provincial government unit po.
Yes. May we hear from our PDRRMO of Cagayan Province, Colonel Atanasio Makalan. Andito pa po ba si Colonel Atanasio? Representing the PDRRMO of Cagayan Province. Anyway, yes, I see.
Good morning. Yes, sir. Come
Hi, ma'am.
again.
Yes. Yes, we were earlier requesting for copies, as mentioned by the report of the Department of Public Works and Highways, yung with regards to the applicants, ano, for dredging, ano, dun sa for Cagayan River from Aparito Lalo, ano, we were first may we know how you intend to seek the qualifications of the applicants? Would you know, ma'am?
Sir, I am Daisy Bagisi, representing Colonel Atanasio Timakalan Jr. I'm sorry, sir, to tell na wala po akong information regarding this. Iparating ko po sa aking boss, si Colonel Atanasio Makalan Jr. Whatever po yung yung mga
Yes, ma'am.
queries or requests.
Yes, please inform. I guess the governor. I think you represent the province, as well. The office of the governor with regards to the list of applicants, and at the same time the qualifications of these applicants, para the committee could be enlightened on this matter as well. So please relay na lang po, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Noted, sir.
Thank you very much po. So at this point, we would also like to hear from the DOST, who is represented.
List of applicants and ano to?
Qualification, ma'am. Qualification. May we hear from Carlos Bautista from Pag-asa? DOST. Our representative from DOST.
So, sir, if I may, this is Nilo Peña from Fisher DOST.
Yes, okay. Hello, sir. Good morning. Sir, yes, on the previous meeting, meron po kaming query with regards to yung current status dito sa LiDAR technology na proposal ninyo. May we know the status kung yun po ba ay naisama ninyo sa inyong budget or your recommendations on the matter?
So I think there were data gathered on the site using LiDAR data, and we'll provide the House the information required.
Yes, please. We would like to request a copy of your report on the usage of the LiDAR technology. And I think meron po kasing initiative po noon na mapalawak pa ito. So we hope yung isama niyo na rin po yung recommendations po ninyo so that we could also aid the agency with regards to budgetary support para sa mga kakailanganin pa mga gamit din po.
Yes, sir, Your Honor. Actually, we have recently approved a research and development project to be implemented by Isabela State University on the project site on the Cagayan River Basin for the assessment of hydrological information as well as assessment on the dam operation with integration of LiDAR information. So we'll provide all of the information as far as that initiative and what would be the program of UST in the Cagayan River Basin area.
Yes, thank you very much, Sir Nilo. Thank you po. At this point, we'd like to recognize our representative from the Office of the Civil Defense, Attorney Texon Lim.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning, sir. Thank you. Please proceed, sir.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Mr. Chair, there's 3 items that this August body has asked the OCD to present. So if I may, sir, as to the prevention of the similar disasters from happening again, we have been reassessing the same, and it would seem that we really have to act on the three levels, no? From the national, subnational, and on the local level. On the national level, maganda na po yung mga binanggit po kanila nila Director Jun Edres and nila ED Tony Danyo. Truly, we really have to strengthen their, and we also have some activities there, particularly in the reconstituting or the rejuvenating of the National Committee on Dam Safety, which I will discuss later po in the second number, no. Also, we would like to recommend, at least on the national level po, that perhaps Congress would like to consider enacting a law that will institutionalize and regulate a comprehensive dam safety program in the Philippines. And this is not only for the purpose of safe dam operations, but dam safety itself, where the integrity of the dam will be considered. Sorry, dagdaga ko po, hindi lang integrity pero pati po yung safety. In other countries po, we have already, based on our resource persons and based on studies, the same is considered a national security matter, no? Given that the collapse or the breakage of dams can create a disaster much greater than just flooding. Or also on the national level, the NDRMC will be conducting simulation exercises that will involve all levels of governance. So again, from national to the local. No? This is something that even our regional offices are already beginning to plan. And then also, of course, as mentioned, kanina natawag po yung pag-asa, importante rin po na ma-repair and maintain po yung ating mga non-functioning hydromet stations and community-based flood early warning systems, no? Whether it be by the DOST or the other concerned agencies. On the regional level, it's of course, maganda na po yung mga nabanggit po kanina at yun rin po ang kinalabasan ng PDNA or Post-Disaster Needs Assessment na kinonduct po ng ating RDRMC under the chairmanship of the Office of Civil Defense, Regional Office 2, particularly by Director Harold Cobreros, who is with us today. There really is a need to, of course, to increase the capacity for rivers, reforestation, enhancement of flood control mechanisms, and of course, yung mga science-based warning information and education po natin, as well as the improvement or development of yung mga flood forecasting po natin. It's important for us to recompute. Ang kwento nga, ang nabasa po nga namin at sa mga consultations namin, itong gawain na po na ito should be regularly updated. No? We cannot rely, particularly with climate change and the continued degradation of our environment. There's really a need to continuously study and recompute and see what has to be done and how all of even our early warning and flood preparations should be readjusted, no, or tweaked. On the local level, I think nabanggit na po ito ng Tubigaraw and the provincial government that of course they need to really strengthen their disaster preparedness for timely evacuation of communities. Marami ho tayong magagandang proyekto na identify, but some of these will take time. So at this point in time, it's important that we're also improving our disaster preparedness measures. No, this is actually much faster than the building of the projects and programs, which actually will still need funding. And of course, allow me to mention, we really need to strictly enforce approved local land use plans and zoning ordinances that will not only, of course, prevent the degradation of our environment, but also will prohibit settlements in high-risk areas. Importante rin po kasi minsan nga sabi nga po sa UNDRR, there's no such thing as there's no such thing as natural disasters. What we are looking at is these are natural hazards where humans have put themselves at risk or has through development changed the environment, thus creating new risk. Now, Mr. Chair, as to the actions taken by the NDRMC, I think this August body asked for a report of the same. Kaloy, could you please start sharing the slides? So he'll be sharing the slides as I narrate the same. The first and foremost activity that we have conducted is the restart the study of the existing dam safety management system that we have, pending of course legislation. May ginawa naman po yung gobyerno all the way back since the 80s. And we have looked into it, and we are moving towards rejuvenating the same and placing the same under the NDRIMC system, or our National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management System, which is under the NDRIMC. So during the NDRIMC Full Council meeting held last November 16, 2020, one of the agenda items was a discussion, of course, of the early and preemptive release of water of major dams, no? Not just Magat, but of course, I think that the target of this August committee is to it's not just Magat, no, but all the dams in the Philippines, even prior to the landfall or arrival of typhoons. So it was then agreed that the OCD shall revive and or at least create a permanent NDRMC committee under the prevention, mitigation and preparedness pillar. These are two separate po, no? So joint po siya, to review and revisit the relevant protocols, policies, manuals of operations on dam safety and its safe operations. Attached is the, as you can see, is the summary of the, we attached to this to our position papers a summary of discussions, which we will be sending the Secretariat po. So pursuant to the resolution of the NDRIMC, assessments were conducted by the concerned government agencies through its national and regional offices, and accordingly on the 25th of January, just recently, the technical working group was convened. I think our dear administrator of NIA mentioned this, no, where we had two renowned dam safety experts, both Engineer Roderick de la Cruz and Professor Emeritus Guillermo Tabios of the UP College of Engineering, to help us finalize the proposed NDRIMC Memorandum Circular. Our target for the same po is having the same approved and adopted by the NDRIMC by February 19. So by February 19 po, ma-issue na po sila ng mandate to, number one, ensuring the continuing development of policies and guidelines that may be implemented by the government agencies and instrumentalities for the safety of dams and its safe operations. Sorry, sir, with Mr. Chair, we would really like to also highlight the importance of yung integrity sa safety ng ating dams, no, under normal and extreme event conditions, and of course against threats such as terrorism and the like. Ensure that the relevant agencies and instrumentalities develop their respective PAPs, no, and allocate appropriate funds to support the execution of policies and guidelines approved by the NDRIMC. Oversee the implementation of guidelines, protocols, and procedures, and all the like po. Hindi ko na po babasahin lahat po ng mga ini-intend po namin maging powers, but generally this was taken from the old MOA. Dati po kasi wala pong NDRIMC pa, so nag-MOA lang po yung mga agencies to create the Committee on Dam Safety. Ngayon po under the NDRIMC system po natin ay ibubuuli namin, but with of course with a stronger mandate, that can hopefully, kagaya po sa US na meron silang Dam Safety Committee rin, though may batas po na nagko-cover nung kanilang program, nevertheless baka pwede na rin natin o kakayanin po naman po natin under the NDRIMC. So I think a lot of the members are here themselves, no? The ones who attended the meeting. And as to the rehabilitation and recovery of the effects of particularly Ulysses, ano, we would like to share that through the issuance of NDRIMC Resolution Number 7, Series of 2020, the conduct of post-disaster needs assessment, which is the foundation of rehabilitation recovery plans, have already been conducted. And in fact, the outputs of the post-PDNA, or what as I mentioned, the post-disaster needs assessment, are expected to be submitted this very day, which will then be endorsed to the Task Force Build Back Better for immediate implementation. So for implementation and funding po, sila na po yung mag-ahanap doon. Though of course the NDRIMC, the Task Force Build Back Better is also looking at the NDRIM fund to help support the funding of those programs. And but while sustaining the provision of while all of this is happening, please be assured though that relief assistance to the affected communities are currently still being undertaken by both the DSWD and even HUD-C, who has already been looking for interventions or already undertaking interventions to the provision of assistance to the families who were affected by Typhoon Ulysses and the other floods or typhoons that occurred before Ulysses. Now, Mr. Chair, with the strengthening of the Office of Civil Defense, maganda po yung mga binanggit po ng ating mga kasama, ng mga aming mga partners earlier, particularly ng DNR, whether it be through the RBCO or their other bureaus, other offices, that there is really still need for institutional capacity building. Kami po sa OCD, as much as nagagampanan po namin yung mga mandato po namin, sa totoo lang po ay there is still need for us to grow to effectively perform our mandates. It's one thing to be able to react to what's happening, no? Like for the provision of relief and preparing people. But of course, we really have to, in pursuant to our own DRM framework, we really have to look more into the prevention and mitigation thereof, which sadly, our country is actually still working on. No? In fact, kahit po sa na-identify na po natin na we really have to build the institutional capacity not only of the OCD but also of such agencies like as I mentioned before, the RBCO that will now help us prevent and mitigate disasters from happening. Accordingly, we recommend the following, which includes for hopefully po makikiusap po sana kami, baka Congress can help us appropriate the funds necessary to allow the OCD to attain such capacity, particularly in the enhancement of our OSSP. If I may share po, Mr. Chair, yung sa OCD po, ang aming total complement is only, for the entire Philippines, is only at 600, no? And sa Region 2 mismo, they only have plantilla positions of 25. And Mr. Chair, yung 25 na yun sa RDRMC, they are supposed to support all 4 thematic pillars: prevention and mitigation, preparedness, response, and rehabilitation and recovery. So kulang na kulang po kami talaga sa tao. And of course, it includes also the lack of, or we need to construct more or improve our facilities and necessary equipment. We all do also understand that the House of Representatives, we kudos to the House of Representatives for already passing a bill, no, elevating the OCD into a department level agency. That is also, of course, another alternative. Though at this point in time, baka pwede po, kung hindi pa natin mapasa po yung batas na yon, ay kahit yung sa enhancement lang po ng aming OSSP, malaking bagay na rin po yun. In closing, sir, Mr. Chair, we humbly manifest, no, the fact that the strengthening of OCD alone or certain agencies, it may not, or the OCD alone will not prevent disasters from happening again. Disaster risk reduction and management involves coherence and convergence amongst all agencies and stakeholders, which redounds all the way apat sa pinaka mga tao, no? Thus giving life to our approach, which is whole of government and whole of society in disaster resilience building. With that, Mr. Chair, maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Director Texon. Maybe request your proposal. That's very interesting to know na napakaliit po, no, ng representation ng manpower, ng plantilla sa mga areas that are really are very dangerous already, living in danger. So maybe request your proposal. I'm sure you've submitted this in the previous budget hearings. We hope that you could also furnish this committee so that we could properly assess, at the same time support the the agency with your request on that matter. We understand the concerns of the predicaments of OCD at this point, especially in areas like, for example, in Cagayan, may dam pa kayo na But Director Texon,
yes, sir.
May I also request, may I also ask pala, who chaired the technical working group, as you mentioned earlier, on the dam management?
Yes, Mr. Chair. It was OCD po. Ako mismo po nag-chair ng technical working group, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Yes. Did you consider, of course, like Magat is already an old dam,
yes.
Is there any delineance between two, one with the current existing dam that's quite old, and yung mga upcoming proposed dams, with regards to proper operations and management, in terms of disaster?
Yes, Mr. Chair, as to your question, yes, we did consider the same. No? That's why we wanted to highlight that dam safety is not just about safe dam operations, and it's about even the constant assessment as to the integrity of the existing dams. Importante po kasi as I transition to answer the second aspect of your question, it's important po kasi also for us, I think particularly even with the RBCO, for us to be able to capture data. One of the reasons why, in fact, data that would now lead to us to better understand what we should be doing to ensure that these dams do not break. Kagaya ng binabanggit po kanila ni Administrator Bisaya, ni Sir Bong, we need to constantly study, like for example, ano po yung mga effect ng mga degraded forest dun sa taas, kung magkano, ano na po yung inflow niya. Tapos, checking also as to, comparing that now as to the capability of the dam to stand the same. Of course, relating this again to climate projections that none other than sina DOST Pag-asa is undertaking. So we can actually prevent. Also, there is also the need to ensure that the security thereof is assured. Even in the United States, that's why they bring in the military and as well as the security forces. Kasi by Homeland Security is because they've already considered dam as a threat in itself. So yan, mga targets po yan for terrorism. Pag yan, for example po, in Magat mismo, pag yan po ay in-attack ng terrorism, that will create a devastation beyond comprehension. Not only po na masisira kung ano man yung mangyari sa tubig, pero problema po yung long-lasting effects. We're looking at po, we started talking also about, even po dito sa atin in Metro Manila, with the La Mesa Dam. It's not being used for irrigation, but that is our primary source of water. If that dam breaks, it's a kind of disaster that we're all going to be like really, really suffering po. So, umabot naman po kami sa ganung usapan. Now, transitioning to the second aspect of your question, which is about the new dams that will be built. We believe that if we can really strengthen this system, or this works amongst the different government agencies, and be able to actually have that kind of data, it will now allow us better regulation of the establishment of new dams, if not even allow or attract foreign investment. We look to put the model of Indonesia, who recently just passed their own dam safety program, where because of the same, that was through the assistance of the World Bank, they were now able to attract more investment into the building of dams. So yun rin po yung medyo syempre initially yung safety po natin, let's make sure na ito po yung mga dams po natin existing are safe and they operate safely. But we're also looking at maybe because of this, if we now have a good enabling environment for dams, we will now be able to attract more investment, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director Texon. Just the same way, I also request, you've mentioned already with regards to discussions on dam protocols. We have a case in our province which is the Kaliwa Dam. So I hope that these aspects were done from the very beginning, considering in the upstream area the current degradation in the watersheds that contribute to this dam. At the same time, given that it is still in its early stages, I'm not sure, I don't think they are starting construction at this point. But I think we should integrate learnings already from this experience from Magat Dam. So I hope that preemptively, the OCD could help us with regards to this issue. Yung sana naman yung Kaliwa Dam, we can ensure yung safety prior to its construction.
Yes, Mr. Chair. But again, also on that particular matter, I remember dun sa usapan po namin, I think this may be which can be a product of this committee hearing, Mr. Chair. We would like to perhaps again bring up what I mentioned earlier about Congress, our dear legislators, to perhaps consider the establishment of a dam safety program talaga po, Mr. Chair. Kasi as we actually go along, we still have to learn more, Mr. Chair. I have to admit, kami po kahit sa OCD, kaya sabi ko kulang kami ng institutional capacity. Wala naman po kami engineers kahit dun sa department ko po, which is handling prevention and mitigation. But from what we've been hearing or what we've been gathering, there really is a need for us to actually come up with a agency or bureau or some kind of agency where that would be focused really on dams. In fact po, if I may quickly share, yung isang resource person po natin, which is Roderick de la Cruz, is actually a senior engineer, dam safety engineer in California. I'm sorry, I just forget that particular company. But his company is actually managing more dams than we are in the Philippines. And the reason why he was actually sharing that the reason why he's working in the US and not in the Philippines, yes sir, in South California, Edison, is because dam safety engineers in the Philippines walang trabaho, wala sila masyadong trabaho dito. Dahil wala silang pupuntahan. Kaya doon po sila napupunta in countries like the United States po and even other countries. And they are proud to say that actually magagaling po ang ating mga engineers. Dam safety engineers po. It's really a specialized field in itself, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
but rest assured, Mr. Chair, with your concern, we will look into this and put this in the top of the priority, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please, thank you. Just to add on that, the Kaliwa Dam, considering that it is 16 kilometers, from the fault line, so this is a bigger challenge, I think. I think, as you mentioned, we should be more preemptive, with regards to dealing with preparedness. So again, thank you, Director Texon Lim. Thank you so much.
And thank you too, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So at this point, we would like to also hear from, sorry, Director Texon, as you mentioned earlier, is Mr. Bautista, is that correct, present?
Bautista?
Sorry, our dam expert. May we get the name again?
We were one is Roderick de la Cruz.
And of course, Roderick, is he joining us, Director Texon?
Mr. Chair, I don't think he was invited to this particular, but he has already agreed to the technical working group. He has agreed to to provide us with assistance, Mr. Chair. So, yung nga lang, hinahabol natin yung schedule niya kasi nagtatrabaho rin po siya sa US. Pero yung local po natin, may local po tayo na expert na who has expertise in this matter, which is already working with NIA. That's Dr. Guillermo Tabios, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much again, Sir Texon. So at this point, may we hear from the Department of Agriculture? We have received your report, who is represented by Yusek Ariel Kayanan. Yusek Ariel?
Mr. Chair, yes po.
Ay, salamat Yusek Ariel ha. I think you have a presentation that you have sent us.
Actually po, so that it will be surgical and precise po, my regional director is on board, Regional Edna Narciso Edilio. Tapos po, if there will be something that will be needing more or policing, I will be here po for that response. So may I request, Mr. Chair, na Director Edilio will be given the opportunity to present, sir.
Thank you, Yusek Ariel. Yes, we now recognize Red Narciso.
Yes, Honorable Chair and member of the North Luzon Quadrangle and all other guests. Magandang tanghali po. May I share our presentation in terms of our contribution on the Department of Agriculture? Okay, I think that's not the first. First, the climate resilient. Yeah, okay. Thank you. I'm presenting this climate resilient agriculture initiative in Cagayan Valley. Next slide, please. Next slide. It covers about the structure measure, the vegetative measure, and the adaptive measures. On the structure, of course, our intervention on the construction and rehabilitation of the small water impounding dam and diversion dam. And the vegetative, of course, the watershed development and management. That's include also a technology called SCOPSA. This is the sustainable crop production in sloping area, sorry. And the adaptive, ito po ay isang climate resilient technology that we want to outscale in a community base. That's include also adaptation and also helping each another in a community. That's include some forecasting instrument to help the community. Next slide, please. So ito po, construction rehabilitation small water impounding dam. Ito po ay ito po yung ginagawa ng DA in terms sa mga areas na pwedeng gawin ng small water impounding dam. At ito po nakakatulong para yung aquifer din ng surrounding area ng tubig underground ay tataas. At makakatulong ito sa availability of tubig, especially on those production area. Bagamat hindi ito lahat ay pwede sa mga plain area, but in Cagayan Valley, we have a large area that are rain-fed, and these have reduced our rain-fed area. So iyan po ang constructed in 2020. At ayan po yung na-reduce natin sa rain-fed area natin. By the way, ang rain-fed area ng Region 2, 57,000 hectares. And with this, in 2020, we are able to reduce 6,580 hectares. Next slide, please. And of course, as intervention on the watershed development and management project, within the sweep areas are our intensive planting of trees in the watershed area so that to sustain yung water in the area, as well as to control erosion. And we have this already in several areas in Region 2 where we have our sweep, and we will continue to continue reforestation on this area in terms of fruit-bearing trees, because we believe that with fruit-bearing trees, they could also contribute economically, especially on a household level. Next slide, please. So, ito po in terms parang napakalaki po ang makikita yung figure, Your Honors. But, the limited funding that we have is only on the red under the GAA. So, all the rest are a proposal, and the total of our proposal which we submitted to our central office and also to the OCD to be incorporated in the Build Back Better program also are these figures, and we hope that the OCD, especially the national NDMRC, could help us so that we could still outscale these technologies that we have, especially the small water impounding dam that will help a lot, also prevention of flooding. Next slide, please. This is also one of the technology under the vegetative also. Is the sustainable corn production in sloping area. Dito kasi sa Region 2 and even other parts of the country, ay hindi natin maiwasan umaakyat na mga farmers sa mga areas supposedly not to be planted yet for crops. But because of the marginality at hirap ng buhay and scarcity of land na, they're coming up and instead, it's really difficult to prevent. We have actually discussing with DNR how to control these farmers to come up in the mountain in order to not to disturb the environment there, and that will cause really erosion of soil to the level ground. So there are technologies that we are introducing, Your Honors, and ito po yung SCOPSA po ito. Technically, ito ay napag-aaralan namin sa Department sa Agriculture course. Ito po yung contour farming. Whereas it's a technology wherein you have to plant trees in between a certain space so that it control it control the erosion, and you don't follow the level down of those contour, but you go against para at least hindi dire-diretso ang hulog ng ating lupa sa plain area or to the river. So there are places we introduce already. If you see, maliliit pa yung mga kahoy in between those rows na every span, but we will continue to appropriate in our meager funding for the sustainability and regulations of this part of our region that are now really in danger, especially when we turn to soil erosion and degradation. So yun ang nai-present ko rin dito sa DNR, and we will be helping together, especially for them, for the trees, perennial trees, and for us for fruit-bearing trees that could be planted in these areas were occupied already by these farmers, that's upland farmers. Next. So as you could see here also, this is what the AMIA, the SCOPs are doing. It's actually a coordination with the MLGU, the FCA, the Farmers Cooperative Association, also the PLGU, and our DA-BAR research, because it should be a continuing research also that we need to evaluate technologies that is resilient and adaptive to the environment or specific location. So, yan po ang general objectives. Of course, still is to increase productivity of corn farmers utilizing the adaptive corn-based technologies in sloping areas. Next slide, please. So, ito po yung example ng SCOPSA that they have studied under the DA-BAR. 32.29 hectares in sloping area was transformed into SCOPSA involving 31 farmers into barangay. So base sa pag-aaral, ang crop planted as hedgerows, yung nagko-control ng erosions, and we have adapted the cooperators in Madela, Quirino. This is the highly rolling areas in Region 2. Next slide, please. So nakikita natin, as per computation ng ating mga dalubhasa sa ating engineering at the same time sa research, ay pag-practice ito ng farmers these areas, this type of ecosystem, no? It can reduce soil erosion to 0.63 cubic meter per hectare per year. Maliit tingnan, pero this can contribute, like for example, out of the 32 study area, 32.29 hectare, they were able to protect or not to protect from erosion. Nahulog na sana itong 20.47 cubic meter in a year. So to cropping yun. So Just to give you a data that we're talking this technology that is feasible and doable. At kung i-compare mo yan into mini dump truck, one mini dump truck is 1.5 cubic meters. So more or less, na-save nila is 14 mini dump truck na lupa na dapat napunta na sa kapatagan. Next slide please. So ito po ang Adaptation Mitigation Initiative ng Agriculture Climate Resilience Fishery Technology-Based Enterprise. Ito po yung sinasabi ko na community-based, na kailangan sa community mapag-aralan nila at maturuan natin kung ano yung mga technology appropriate in their own specific location. Kasi sa pagbabago ng panahon, iba-iba po ang response in terms sa location. Lalo na po sa amin sa Region 2, actually, although there are general climate condition, but it differs from location to ecosystem. So ito po yung approach nito is a community-based na pag-aralan na yung mga technology that was already from research ay i-adapt na nila dito sa community-based. At the whole community to be trained and to work together and to help one another to protect their community from the different disasters. That's including also calamities on the crops and livestock, like for example the ASF, the new the new insect prevalent FAO. So mga ganun po sir. Next. So ito po ang example ng isang training center within the community now where they work together and they train together and they adapt together a technology including crop intensification, maximizing the use of the available moisture in the soil and what appropriate varieties that could be adapted in the community. So ito po ay meron na tayong dito sa Region 2. We have implemented already 2 locations in 2020 because of the limited fund that we get also, and we will have at least 4 this year. We will have 4 locations also this year, in 3 in Cagayan and another 1 in Isabela and 1 in Vizcaya. Next slide please. So ito po yung example ng AMIA Village, ano. Itong AMIA Village or community ay ini-integrate natin yung package net technology from a community, from the dam where they will manage themselves, they will protect the dam, and the ecosystem there ay pagsishare nila. At we will also from the dam also the utilization of the waters they are also organized into associations so that the efficient utilization and the timing of planting to use effectively of the water ay nakaangkala din yan as part of the objectives of this type of technology that we are introducing in a community-based level. Next slide, please. So not only on crops, but also to take advantage of our mini dams, small water impounding dams, in coordination with the FAR. We are also introducing an income generating as a source of their family income, yung fishery, to take advantage at habang, especially during rainy season, na mataas pa ang tubig, they could also grow tilapia or other kind of fish. That a source of the protein in their community. Next slide, please. This is also another AMIA na ano din dito sa part ng Ilagan, Isabela, at ito po ay bago natin last December na i-turn over sa community, at we will still continue to monitor their training aspect, although we turn over already to them, and the LGU also through the local government unit, the city government of Ilagan, will continue to monitor and support them, especially for sustainability na itong programa na ito. Next slide, please. Then we have also as I said a while ago, we will outscale to Sanchez Mira, Cagayan, and Quirino Province with this kind of intervention that we have. So hopefully ay mapalaganap natin ito so that as a mirror, the LGU will come in also so that yung hindi namin makakaya na area where feasible ay sana ay makumbinsi namin ng mga local government units, especially the mayor, where they have also their era that could be shared together. Next slide, please. So ito po yung proposal for expanded project, you know. Ito po yung area I just mentioned, hindi naman kalakihan ng pondo, but as I've said, these AMEA centers include also the establishment of meteorological stations as also a medium wherein among themselves with these gadgets, they could also forecast their fellow farmers on the status of the rainfall pattern in that area, so they could suit to the planting calendars. Also, other programs of the DA, like for example, the post-harvest facilities, will be also provided for them, and also this. Including also the FMRs and implemented by congressmen. Also ay nagkikilabi din kami para sa ganun yung area, lalo na po yung mga remote area ay mabigyan din sila ng farm to market roads para maka-access and to reduce production cost. Next slide, please. Ito po yung proposal for new expanded area as I mentioned a while ago. Next slide, please. Ito po yung summary ng proposed intervention as to the structure, vegetative, and the adaptive worth 881 million. At we have already submitted this as a proposal, and hopefully we could share from the funding from the national government, especially on the OCD, the MRC. Sorry. Next slide, please. Just to show you how important these dams, the existing dams that we constructed 5 years ago and or previous years, they are strategically located. The blue one, is that blue? Yeah, the blue one is the Cagayan River, no? So, violet. Light blue are the light blue and the red are the sweep and also the rehab sweep, because after how many years na kailangan ding ma-rehab yung mga iba na mga sweep natin. Pero pinapakita ko lang sa map na ito na ito included sa report ni RD Redress kanina na itong mga dam na ito ay located sa mga almost elevated area that could help really control also erosion. With this at ma-rehabilitate at mabigyan din ng watershed ng reforestation and practicing appropriate technology through community-based orientation ay makaka-contribute din to the prevention ng flooding at erosion ng mga soils going to Cagayan River. So this is just part, I think, of Cagayan. Next slide, please. And also, yeah, still in Cagayan, ito din ang location ng mga dam at proposed dam din na i-implement. Hopefully makakuha tayo ng funding. And diversion dam, yeah. Next slide, please. Ito sa Isabela. Mas marami sa Isabela kasi they have very suitable locations for construction ng mini dams. We're talking when we're talking with mini dams, small water impounding dams, the highest so far we implemented is only I think 30 million. So it's not as big as we're talking of a dam. And these are all located on the base of the mountain where it's easily to accumulate water. And next slide, please. This is also on a part of, I think, Vizcaya. Isabela, still Isabela. Coastal area on the eastern part of Isabela, mostly on diversion dam. Okay, next slide, please. And This is now on Vizcaya. Again, the location are really it's not easy. Even if a mayor or a barangay captain will ask us, we need to validate, and we have special guidelines, especially our RAED engineering department, to evaluate, and we could only respond where feasible. Next slide, please. Wala na. So I think, sir, more or less, that's our presentation and contribution in terms mitigation ng flooding on the Department of Agriculture. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Consider Yusek Kayanan.
Thank you very much po, Mr. Chair. With the presentation of my Regional Executive Director, it's just an added manifestation, Mr. Chair, that the ones that was presented a while ago by our partner from NEDA, we fully support, because it will not only help preventing flood, but more so those areas that are useful during rainy season but a little bit less efficient during the dry season will be properly utilized, Mr. Chair. So we fully support also, kasi kanina, ang nasabi po ng partner natin sa NEDA, the funding requirement will be very challenging. So Mr. Chair, we are supporting that na sana mapondoan po at mabigyan to pave way for that project, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much po, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Yusek Kayanan. Yes, Chair.
Yes, thank you, Chair Jojo. Yusek Ariel, and to Red Edilio, I would like to just be clarified. It was one of the observations that contributing also to soil saturation is yung planting sa upland areas. But as you presented, I think you are currently pushing for further expansion of planting in upland areas. So what is the science behind this? Baka ma-enlighten nyo kami dito.
Actually, Mr. Chair, the good director can be providing you the details. Yes, while there are plants that might be contributory to erosion, but there are also what they call crops or plant that will be helpful in holding. Halimbawa po, may mga damo po talaga na ginagamit natin to protect. I wish that the good director can further drill down to the details. Director Edilio.
Your Honors, we're not actually pushing that our farmers will go down. We will go up on the mountain. In fact, as much as possible, we prevent them from going up, because that will cause, because they are using this glyphosate, this a chemical, a herbicide that really loosen the soil. In fact, that's one package that we're dealing with LGUs to pass an ordinance regulating the use of these glyphosate chemicals, because ito po ginagamit nila sa bundok. Mas madali kasi isang spray lang, pwede na sila magtanim. And what I'm telling you is just to what is already existing is we need to provide a technology that could at least lessen the downfall itong mga kalupain sa pamagitan ng technology kagaya po yung SCOPSA, yung contour farming, na it is also feasible, wherein we have the edgers, what you call this, permanent trees to be planted in every column during along the contour, where they can still plant corn or vegetable in between, but these perennial trees in between can hold the degradation and can hold erosion, Your Honors. So we are talking with, there's a big growth of LGUs here. We're talking with RD ng DNR that they should help us to what degrees in sloping that they could not go beyond, so that to protect still our mountains na wala na pong punong kahoy. Very kasi ito. So yun po ang to what we could contribute is to do research on what appropriate technology that we could still introduce to our farmers without totally controlling them, especially the existing farm already by our local farmers, especially corn farmers, sir.
Thank you, Red Edilio. Thank you, Honorable Chair Jojo.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Director Edilio.
Mr. Chair.
Before we proceed, I would just like to recognize Congressman VG Lacson for attending, and of course, Congressman Dong Gonzales. Yes, Congressman DB.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, since there's so many ideas, there's so many plans for the about the subject matter, is there a possibility to create a technical working group para mas mapag-aralan po natin mabuti sana ito kasi dami hong ideas from different agencies and it's so hard to consolidate them. So pwede po if we can create a technical working group for this matter.
Mr. Chairman.
DSDB, there's a pending motion.
Mr. Chairman, Congressman Dong here.
Congressman Dong, you are recognized.
Mr. Chairman, Chairman Jojo and Chairman Mark, previously I have a pending motion during our first hearing to create a technical working group, and I'm very thankful also to Deputy Speaker D.B. Sevillano for again to creating again a technical working group so that we can tackle things na marami tayong dapat pag-usapan pa, hindi pa natapos sa hearing yan. And my motion is to create a technical working group and Chairman Jojo Lara to be the chairman. And that's my motion, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Mr.
thank
Chair.
you, Deputy Speaker DB and Kong Chair Dong Gonzales. Yes, Honorable DB Sabillano.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please proceed.
If I may.
Honorable Deputy
Can I just second the pending motion of the Honorable
Yes.
Gonzales?
Before that, Honorable Deputy Speaker DB, in the list is the Honorable VG Lacson.
Okay.
Who wishes to, I think, ask questions. May with indulgence again. Sige po.
Mr. Chair, mawawala kasi ako because I have another meeting. So, if i-second mo ko na, then depending na po sa inyo sa lahat. So, to accommodate the Congressman VG Lacson.
Okay, thank you.
Anyway,
Yes,
that is
yes.
a pending motion naman, and you are second that, yes.
Okay,
Yes,
yes, thank you.
Thank you. We'll,
Okay, that is a pending motion, Chair. Thank you.
We'll hold in abeyance muna the motion
Yes.
subjective to the interpellation of the Honorable VG Lacson.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker DB and Congressman Chairman Dong Gonzales. Honorable
Thank you.
VG Lacson, Kong VG, are you still with us?
Okay.
Kong VG. So I think we have lost the Honorable VG Lacson. So now we will act on the motion of the Honorable Dong Gonzales. May you please restate your pending motion, Honorable Dong Gonzales? Chair Dong?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Honorable Deputy Speaker DB.
Since it's a pending motion, I would like to second the motion of the Honorable Dong Gonzales, subject to style lang.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker DB. So there's a motion, pending motion by the Honorable Dong Gonzales to create a technical working group to further study the current matter, and duly seconded by the Honorable Deputy Speaker D.B. Sabillano. Are there any objections from the body? There being none, motion is carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, and part of the motion is to elect to nominate the Honorable Jojo Lara to chair the technical working group. So they're being duly seconded also by the Deputy Speaker D.B. Sabillano. There being no objections, the motion is approved.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, the Honorable Joseph Lara is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to head or chair the technical working group. And at this point, I move to also nominate Chair Dong Gonzalez as the vice chair of the technical working group, Mr. Chair.
Are there any objections from the body? There being none, the Honorable Dong Gonzalez is nominated as vice chair and nominated and elected as vice chair of the technical working group.
Mr. Chair, kung mamarapatin, member sana ako.
Yes, of course. The Honorable
thank you.
Speaker will always be a member of all
Thank you.
committees. Thank you, Deputy Speaker DB. So again, we would like to remind all our resource persons to please submit again your statements, your presentations given earlier during this meeting. So this will be now referred to a proper technical working group and committee to be chaired by the Honorable Joseph Jojo Lara. So of course, pending perusal of the members of all the current submissions and the interpellations of this meeting, we will now pass it on to the technical working group. So at this point, may we hear from the Honorable Chair Joseph Jojo Lara for his closing statements?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sa lahat ng dumalo, sa lahat ng member ng North Luzon, Quadrangle, whereas sa aming chairman, Congressman Monmon Guico, maraming salamat at napagbigyan tayo ngayon na ating mga resource person to shed light on these perennial problems that besets not only our region, our province, but the whole of the country. So I hope yung mga ibang mga katanungan at mga hindi natin natakal at this point, no, usapan natin sa technical working group. So maraming salamat sa mga resource persons, sa ating mga colleagues, no, nag-spare ng oras po nila. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Chair Joseph Jojo Lara. On behalf of the Committee on Agriculture and Food, we are very much thankful sa lahat po ng mga resource persons. We hope to seek your earnest participation again in the technical working group. We hope to complete a committee report very much soon, and I believe that this would be best dealt with in the technical working group that has been created. And I guess after that, in the technical working group committee, we will now be able to finalize our committee report and submit our recommendation. So maraming salamat po sa lahat po ng mga miyembro.
Si Chairman.
Yes, the Honorable Dong Gonzalez is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, sorry, nawala ako, nakat po ako, nasa ano ako eh. Hindi ko alam kung ano nangyari. Ano nangyari sa motion ko, sa pending motion?
Inaktuhan na po natin, Honorable Dong, yung inyong motion, which was duly seconded, approved po. So, nagka-create na po tayo ng technical working group to be chaired by the Honorable Chair Joseph Jojo Lara. At ang Vice Chair po ay, kayo po ay naitalaga bilang Vice Chair ng technical working group na ito.
Chairman, putol-putol, pag-iulit. Sorry, putol-putol lang. May signal po. Sorry. Pag-iulit lang.
Yes. So, na-approve yung inyong motion.
Okay.
Ang chairman po ng Technical Working Group ay si Chair Joseph Jojo Lara.
Okay.
At kayo po ay na-elect bilang Vice Chair ng Technical Working Group na ito.
Okay. Thank you po, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you po, Honorable Dong Gonzalez.
Salamat. Sorry, pasensya na po. Salamat.
Okay lang po. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So at this point, we may now conclude the meeting. May we hear the favorite motion of the Honorable June Gato. Honorable June, Manong June, Kong June.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, you posted a query in our chat group.
This is not related to the agenda, but I was just taking the follow up the status of the irrigation system in my district, which has been there for almost 20 years with not a single product has been produced. So during the last meeting, I think the meeting with the NIA December of 2019, there was supposed to be a on-site inspection to officially declare it as non-feasible. But I understand because of the pandemic, the supposed to be a visit was deferred. But I would just like to follow up on that, Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you, Honorable June Gato. Admin Rick Bisaya. Admin Bisaya. Yes, thank you, admin. May question si Congressman June Gato with regards to the Itbayat irrigation project na meron po kayong usapan na mag-ocular inspection ang inyong tanggapan. So we hope that this will materialize soon, sir.
Yes, sir. Mag-usap lang po kayo, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, so again, sir, paki-ano na lang po. Paki-prioritize naman po.
Opo.
Sasagutin natin, sir, kanina lang kanya natin sa region. Sa region 2, sir. Region 2.
Opo, i-coordinate na lang po namin sa
namin alam yan.
Ni Region 2 office namin po.
Yes, at saka paki-instruct po yung inyong regional director na paki-contact si Congressman June Gato ng Batanes.
Yes, sir. Actually, he's on board.
Is he? Sir, sino po? May we get the name? Yung ano?
Director Apil.
Raymond Apil.
Director Raymond Apin? Apil. Director Raymond.
Yes, sir. Can I speak?
Yes.
Yes, please proceed.
Yes, sir. With regards to the inquiry of Congressman Gato, actually, yun nga, sir, yung nabanggit din ni Kong na because of the pandemic, we were not able to proceed and conduct a technical assessment of the situation of the Itbayat impounding dam. So, hopefully, sir, kung maganda na po yung ating situation and we can travel to your area, we can conduct a technical assessment para ma-assess natin talaga kung ano yung mga naging issue with regards to that project. Sir.
Yes, Red. So please prioritize. Gaganda na naman yung panahon, I'm sure, in the coming months. So we hope that this would be your first agenda, pagka may pagkakataon.
Wala tayong restriction po, we can travel to the area.
Yes. The Honorable June Gato, any other concerns?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
I expect, hopefully this year, RD, you can now finally declare the project as not feasible. I was even told by former Regional Director Alviar that project is really was not really feasible. It has been there for 20 years. 1 billion pesos has been
Yes, sir. We will just conduct a technical assessment first before we can finally say that it is not feasible.
I mean, for after 20 years and not a single palay, I think it's about time to declare that as not feasible. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you very much. Honorable Dong Gonzales.
Mr. Chairman, sana pwede na natin ma-hear yung ating bill sa mga farmers. yung ating pinag-usapan kung
Yes.
pwede na natin i-schedule, sir, di ba?
Yes, Honorable
po.
yes, Honorable Dong. On Tuesday we will just we will discuss the concern on the rising prices of agricultural products. So mauna lang po natin 'yon at medyo malaking problema po natin din ngayon relating to livestock and gulay. So rest assured, Honorable Dong, we will
Thank you.
soon calendar that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yes, the Honorable Luisa Lloren Quaresma is recognized.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Chair. As Vice Chairperson in charge of the budget of the Department of Agriculture, including its tax agencies, of course, that's including already the budget of PANIA. May I request, if it's not too much of the asking, Mr. Chair, that I be a member of the Committee on Agriculture?
Yes, ma'am. We will very much support your nomination. We will relay to the leadership and to the majority leader that, of course, you should be, ma'am,
because
a very strong
I'm
partner of the
defending
committee itself.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm defending the budget of the DA and NIA, and yet I'm not a member of the Committee on Agriculture, which I think is so hard for me to defend, the budget. So if there's no more, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and if there's no more agenda to be taken up, is it all right if I move for the adjournment of the meeting?
Yes, ma'am. But prior to that, before we act on that, ma'am, my apologies. I thought all throughout that you were a member of the committee.
No, I'm a member of the Special Committee on North.
That's the Vice Chair.
Quadrangle, that's why I'm here, Mr. Chair.
Okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We will ensure. We will write the leadership and we will follow it up with the leadership that you be read in plenary to be a high-ranking member. We will recommend that you be a high-ranking member of the Committee on Agriculture and Food.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So, hearing is adjourned. On the part of the Committee on Agriculture and Food, the hearing is adjourned.
On the part of the Special Committee on North Luzon Growth Quadrangle, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Salamat po sa lahat.
Thank you.